for causing this destruction in order to rebuild, in order to give a people a chance who are probably deeply traumatized. 17,000 Palestinians have been orphaned, and many of them have been pulled from the rubble with no limbs and no surviving family. We worry in the West when somebody witnesses a car accident, right, or sees someone die in front of them and the trauma, and they get therapy and they have support. We're literally expecting a people to emerge from genocide to build a political future without addressing that they are humans. They are enduring emotional trauma and still unable to survive. They've proposed a one-state solution, a two-state solution, a binational federation. Palestinians need to lead themselves. We need to let them live first.
I would like to end on hope. Something hopeful. You said you're an optimist. What, if anything, gives you hope moving forward?
The greatest amount of hope that I've been able to conjure, is watching Palestinians make something out of nothing. Listening to Palestinian, new mothers who have created life in the midst of the genocide when life is the primary target, or witnessing the young man on, Instagram who doesn't have access to a gym, so is now making makeshift weights out of water bottles. The only thing I can say that's good about the ceasefire is that it gives Palestinians an opportunity to sleep and to eat. And if they are able to sleep and to eat, they are able to continue moving forward to craft a vision for their own freedom. And so how can you not have hope? And especially for me as a Palestinian, when I think to myself, I come from these people. I am part of this lineage. We create from nothing. We practice love. We teach life. How can I not have hope? And so, I encourage people who lose hope to turn to Palestinians, because they will teach you quite a bit and help you strengthen that muscle of hope.
Thank you for listening to the interview from the BBC World Service. You'll find more in-depth conversations on the interview wherever you get your BBC podcasts, including episodes with released Israeli hostage Keith Siegel, author Sir Salman Rushdie, and former US Vice President Kamala Harris. Until the next time, bye for now.
From the BBC, that was The Interview. I'm Saroja Coelho.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio, and we're live downtown. Thanks for joining us. It is, in Winnipeg, pretty decent out there. We're mainly clear. We're -3. You're from the prairies when you think, ooh, that's nice, -3. But it is pretty nice. Today we're going to have a high of 1 degree, going to be even warmer into the weekend. The warm spot is -1, Victoria Beach. Not much of a spread here. Light snow is falling in Thompson where it's -8. Your cold spot is -12. That's Lynn Lake. And over in Brandon, it's clear and -11. Morning show's on until 8:37. Thanks for being with us. If you have an issue on the commute, 788-3093. Let's say good morning to today's team. Sierra Sanders is here. Good morning. Welcome back to the early hours. Sierra directed all summer long, and she's back to do that today. We'll hear her on the air as well, covering traffic. Good morning to May McKillips, who's switched seats back this morning, but teching. Good morning, May, behind the controls. And then Darren Marash is back in there in the control room. He's our producer of our YouTube stream if you're watching the show live there, and we hope you are. Say hello. All right, let's go to Heather Wells. She is here also in our news center, and at 2 minutes to 6, she always starts the show with headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, a man with a rare disease says the treatment he relies on to help slow that disease is being revoked. 30-year-old Jeremy Bray has a neurological disease slowly taking away his ability to move his muscles. He fought for the Manitoba government to pay for a hugely expensive drug, which reverses some of the disease's effects. The drug maker then agreed to give it to Bray for free on compassionate grounds, but now the company's stopping coverage, and Bray is hoping the province will kick in. And children's shoes lined the walkway and stairs leading to the Manitoba legislature last night. The shoes, lit up by artificial candles, were there to honor Ukrainian children who have died because of the war. We'll hear more about that coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Well, this morning on the program, a new study from Dalhousie University says a lot of us are still tossing perfectly good food out. We still don't understand what it means when those dates say best before. So we'll revisit some of that information and find out what's new. Also, we will revisit something from the throne speech this week, hearing more about that overpass that will be built to help improve highway safety in Carberry. And on the Trans-Canada, the Premier was out west yesterday talking about it. So that's coming up. Plus a special report we're about to hear on World Report about Marketplace about ER wait times.
You get your podcasts.
Good morning, I'm John Northcott. We begin with a devastating grizzly bear attack on a group of elementary school students in northern British Columbia. 4 people critically or seriously injured. In total, 11 people were treated after the attack. It happened in Bella Coola, 700 kilometers north of Vancouver. The CBC's Janella Hamilton has more.
The bear attack was called into the police at around 1:35, saying that multiple people had been injured by a bear.
RCMP Corporal Madonna Saunderson says the attack happened Thursday afternoon on a trail near Bella Coola. According to paramedics, 11 people were treated at the scene. 4 were taken to hospital by air due to poor weather in the area. 2 in critical condition, 2 others seriously hurt.
It was reported that there were students.
The mother of a child in the elementary school class who was posting on social media told the Canadian Press teachers fought off the attacking animal. She says the children are in grades 4 and 5 and her son is traumatized by the attack, adding that 3 children were among those with injuries. The chief of the New Hulk First Nation says the community is devastated for the individuals and families impacted. Meanwhile, the El Casalta school says it will be closed Friday due to the bear incident and will be providing supports for those who need them. As of last evening, the bear had not been located. Janella Hamilton, CBC News, Vancouver.
There could be an awkward Oval Office encounter today. This afternoon, Donald Trump sits down with the Democrat mayor-elected of New York, Zoran Mondani. The two men are polar opposites politically, with the president calling Mondani a communist lunatic and a disaster. Willie Lowry is in our Washington bureau. So, Willie, what are you expecting today? Détente or dissension?
So these are the 2 biggest names in their respective political parties at the moment, but there is a huge power imbalance between them. Zoran Mamdani is still just the mayor-elect. He only takes office in January, and he's dealing with a president who has threatened to cut federal funding to New York City, send in the National Guard, and ramp up immigration enforcement efforts there, all because Mamdani is a Democratic socialist. Here is White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
Speaks volumes that tomorrow we have a communist coming to the White House because that's who the Democrat Party elected as the mayor of the largest city in the country. I think it's very telling, but I also think it speaks to the fact that President Trump is willing to meet with anyone and talk to anyone and to try to do what's right on behalf of the American people.
Mamdani, meanwhile, says he'll be singularly focused in the meeting.
I will meet with anyone. I will speak to everyone, so long as it could stand to benefit an economic agenda for New Yorkers.
This meeting perhaps a foreshadowing of the next 3 years and what the relationship will be between the president and his native town.
To that point, Willie, the meeting comes as Donald Trump is facing tough times politically. What are the stakes for him going into this meeting?
He absolutely is. The Epstein files have revealed cracks in the Republican Party and his grip on Congress. Longtime stalwarts like Marjorie Taylor Greene have seemingly split, and he's facing a growing affordability crisis as his economic policies face the test of reality. All of that heightens the stakes for this meeting as the 2 faces of their parties square off for the first time.
Willie Lowry in Washington. Thanks, Willie.
My pleasure.
Delegates at the COP30 summit in Brazil are facing a looming deadline. The climate talks due to wrap up today, but they've hit an impasse. A new draft deal published early this morning has removed the words fossil fuels from the text. And as Susan Ormiston reports, the tense negotiations had to deal with another problem, a fire at the venue.
Huge orange flames burned a hole out of a massive tent which is housing the climate talks in Belen, spewing black smoke through part of the venue before firefighters brought it under control. 13 people were treated for smoke inhalation. Thousands had evacuated the venue before it reopened on Thursday night. A major disruption at a critical moment as negotiators for 197 countries tried to come up with consensus on trade, climate financing for developing countries, and stronger action to reduce harmful emissions.
We are down to the wire, and the world is watching Belém.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres made a last-minute appeal for countries to get behind a roadmap to transition away from fossil fuels.
And the world must pursue a just, orderly and equitable transition away from fossil fuels as agreed at COP28 in Dubai.
82 countries are pushing to take action on moving away from oil, coal and gas, but they make up only 7% of the world's oil production. Some have told the Brazilian leadership that phasing out fossil fuels is a red line. Without it, they won't sign on to any agreement. But large oil-producing countries like Saudi Arabia and Russia, and large users like China and India were not on board, nor was Canada, as negotiations stretched into the early hours of Friday morning. Gaps between the countries appear to be widening, and the fire delay hasn't helped. A large meeting of all countries, a plenary, is planned for Friday, but it's unclear what they'll vote on. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Toronto.
Smash and grabs, brazen jewelry store robberies that happen across the country. But jewelers in the Greater Toronto area are getting hit the hardest. A Fifth Estate investigation reveals many of the suspects are young teens recruited by adults to do the dirty work. The CBC's Joanna Remiliotis has details.
You might have seen videos of smash and grabs, swarms of what appear to be young people smashing jewelry displays and grabbing what they can as fast as they can, often in broad daylight. Police say the violent robberies have spiked in the last 3 years. The Fifth Estate was able to identify at least 60 cases this year alone in Ontario.
Something has to happen. Something has to change.
Jerry Serrani's store in Markham, Ontario has been targeted 3 times in 1 year.
See, the crime is getting bigger and bigger, getting more violent.
Shattered glass, obviously, from display.
The Fifth Estate got rare access with York Regional Police's hold-up unit to see how they're tackling a surge in violent robberies. A big revelation, many of the suspects are young teenagers who police say often get released on bail and go on to reoffend.
We are seeing a lot of youth being recruited by adult offenders, and they realize that, a youth offender is likely not going to be held as accountable as they.
There's a lot of emotion behind it.
This woman told us her 16-year-old son was approached by an adult with the promise of fast money and getting off easy. Her son is accused of being involved in multiple smash and grabs. To protect his identity under the Youth Criminal Justice Act, we're not using her name.
I think a heavy message was that anything that he does before he's 18 doesn't matter. It won't affect him as an adult.
Those dangerous influences are still out there, and why she made the tough decision to not bail her son out, because she believes he's safer in custody. Joanna Remiliotis, CBC News, Toronto.
That Fifth Estate investigation airs tonight, 9 p.m. on CBC Television and GEM, or watch it anytime on YouTube. And finally, shoppers are heading into their first holiday season since the trade war with the United States began. And this year, the added push to buy Canadian-made goods is weighing heavily on the consumer conscience. As Alison McCormick reports, rising cost of living pressures may mean the price simply overrides patriotism for many shoppers.
I would be looking to buy Canadian products more so than ever before, absolutely.
At a Fredericton Mall, shopper Craig Buchanan says he'll be on the lookout for locally made gifts this holiday season, but it won't be his top priority.
Cost in today's economy, I think, would be the most driving force, and then where it's made.
He's not alone. The Retail Council of Canada recently conducted a survey of more than 2,500 Canadians. 86% of respondents said buying Canadian is important to them this Christmas, but the Atlantic director Jim Cormier says price matters more than anything.
Over 60% told us that, price is always going to be the number one factor.
Andy says rising costs have turned a lot of people into strategic shoppers.
A lot of our respondents to the survey said that they plan on doing a lot of research, waiting for sales, and then saying that, frankly, price is going to be paramount.
Heather Atchison researches social issues for the Human Development Council. She says being choosy about where things are made is a luxury not everyone can afford.
Being able to make those decisions does come with a lot of privilege.
The retail survey also found everyone is pulling back a bit this year. Cormier says spending typically goes up each year, but this holiday, Canadians are planning to spend the same amount. That works out to a national average of about $975. Alison McCormick, CBC News, Fredericton.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Good morning, everyone. It's Friday. I'm Marcy Marcusa, and we are sitting live in downtown Winnipeg in Studio 15 at CBC. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. I don't know why I sound so excited about that, but I'm excited about that. Had a good week here, and really nice feedback from all you listeners writing into us. One of you sent me a card this week. Come on. Thanks for joining us again this morning. We've got lots of good stuff coming up for you. It's -4 in Winnipeg, currently in the city. This hour on the show, talking about what's coming up. Did you open the milk this morning and go, ugh, I can't use this? It's not good. It's past the best before. If you're still one of those people that throws things out after the best before, you want to hear an interview this hour about how you should think about food safety versus best before dates. They are not the same. Canadians continue to toss out far too much good food. There's some new stats that we'll talk about. Also, this hour on the show, we'll start by hearing more about that new overpass that's going to be built to improve highway safety around Carberry. That was one of the announcements in the throne speech this week. All right, let's go to Heather Wells first for more Manitoba news headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, the Canadian Museum for Human Rights is defending a decision to open a new exhibit on the Nakba. That is the Arabic term for catastrophe, which Palestinians used to describe a defining moment of their history. Hundreds of thousands forced or left their homes during the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. Israel disputes forcing out Palestinians. The Jewish Heritage Centre of Western Canada wants the CMHR to re-evaluate its plans for that exhibit. Help is on the way for pet owners feeling the squeeze this holiday season. The Winnipeg Humane Society is launching its first ever pet food holiday hamper program. We're going to hear all about it and how you can help out in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Let's get into what's happening in the weather forecast here. So for today, a sunny day ahead, a high of 1 degree in Winnipeg. In Brandon, mainly sunny for you as well, and your high is going to be even warmer, right around 4 degrees. Up in Thompson, that light snow that you've been having should end this morning, and then it'll cloud over. Your high is going to be -6, but the whole province is going to be going into a kind of an unseasonably warm period throughout the weekend. We could see highs of 5 and 6 across southern Manitoba here. Current conditions right now and current temperatures look like this, mainly clear in the city of Winnipeg. It's -4. In Thompson, it's -9 with light snow. Over in Brandon, mainly clear, and it's -11, and that is now the new cold spot in the province. Let's get into what's actually happening on the roadways and just tee you up for where you can reach us with Sierra Sanders, who's in. Good morning. Welcome back to the morning.
Good morning. Happy to be back. Not really happy about the early morning sometimes, the wake up, but I'm here. Once I get here, I'm fine.
Right? It's always like that. I think it's like that no matter what time you're going to work, honestly.
I agree. It's the hardest part is waking up and getting moving. Yeah. But once I'm here, and here with everyone in the newsroom, I feel a lot better. So the hardest part is the start.
The best part of this is you were filling in the summertime for Corey, and I find this time the nicest thing, if you are up, this is me saying get up even earlier, Sierra, but the lights all over, people are starting to put their holiday displays up, and we get the best of that. There's no traffic, it's dark, and it's really pretty.
I agree. I definitely pass. I'm in the downtown area a lot, so I like to see all the balconies that are all decked out with holiday lights and everything like that.
Started.
So it's my favorite.
What's the actual commute like?
Looking pretty good so far. Not hearing of any major blockages or anything getting in your way that would be slowing you down. But if something does pop up and there's something getting in your way or something slowing you down, I would love to hear about it. Give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
continue to look closer at what was announced in the throne speech in our province this week. One of those items, as I alluded to, was a big change coming to the Trans-Canada Highway west of Winnipeg at the intersection of Highways 1 and 5. That was the site of Manitoba's deadliest bus collision 2 years ago now. Now, initially, transportation experts recommended an R-cut be constructed to improve safety. But after consultation with the public, the province is going to build the more expensive idea and create an overpass. Premier Wap Kinew was at the Carberry Community Hall yesterday.
After hearing from your perspective, hearing the voices of other folks in the surrounding region, it was really important for me to say, well, we got to get this right. This intersection is not like any other intersection. There's a history, there's a sensitivity, and we have to respect that. And so, just to maybe pull back the curtain there, you had the one approach that was being presented earlier on, the R-cut, and you had an overpass. I think the technical term is interchange. So if you look in the diamond interchange is the term that gets used in the engineering documents. So going back to the initial announcement that we were going to do consultations about this, you may remember that we said there's a number of different options we looked at, everything from putting traffic lights at the intersection, to these different designs, to all sorts of things. Long and short of it is, all those approaches were maybe, in terms of the safety score that the engineers do, a little bit lower. There were two clear front runners. One was the R-cut and the other one was the overpass. And they're basically tied. The overpass may be slightly ahead by a few points, but basically the same level in terms of safety. And so when that R-cut was dismissed or maybe identified by the community as not being the right fit, that left one option in terms of safety. So from the last time that there was a town hall and consultations, it's taken us a bit of time because we had to go back and talk a bit about what the design's going to mean, had to put it through our budget process, and then of course a whole ton of other behind the scenes work gets done before we're able to come to a day like today where we're saying, yes, we got the plan to pay for it, we've got the work plan to move ahead with this, and we're very, very confident that we can do this in a way that's going to guarantee safety, guarantee usability for you, the folks who use it most frequently, and then most of all, just hit all those different priorities in the right way that shows respect for what everyone has been living through. A couple details I'll share with you. The costing, right now we're looking at about $100 million in terms of the overall budget for this project. Timeline being another consideration. Because we had to take a step back and now we're going to be redoing the design and engineering around this project, we're looking at using the remainder of this fiscal year, so the 25-26 fiscal year, is going to be about locking in those next steps in terms of design. Heading into the next year, that's the engineering, the land acquisition, because as you know, surrounding the Trans-Canada, we're going to have to put the pieces of land together to be able to build this new overpass. And then construction should start heading into that following year, 2027. At best guess, they're telling us 2.5 years, 2.5 years for the actual construction phase. So if we hit all those timelines, heading into 2029, 2030, the overpass should be open, should be functional. Again, the design and work plan might mean that segments of it open earlier, right? Because we might be able to do that. But just at a very, very high level, sharing those broad timelines with you and the broad budget with you.
Premier Wap Kinew yesterday speaking about the new overpass that will be built in Carberry. Construction, as you heard him say there, is expected to start in 2027. That was one of the announcements in the throne speech this week, confirming that overpass. If you want to read what else was announced, in case you missed all the details, cbc.ca/Manitoba. Well, next on the show, let's talk about food safety. And that is because a lot of us wake up and look at the milk and think maybe I shouldn't use this because it's gone bad. About a third of Canadians don't really know what those best before labels mean. That's according to another new study about food safety from Dalhousie University's Agri-Food Analytics Lab. The study found that nearly 40% of people throw out food that's still safe to eat. For tips on how to tell if it's still good and also why we can't get ahead of this conversation, Lawrence Goodridge is with us, professor of food safety over at the University of Guelph. Hi there.
Good morning.
It seems like we really can't repeat this message enough, right? Like just reminding people best before doesn't mean throw it out. Why do you think it doesn't stick with folks?
Because people think that best before dates have to do with food safety. And so a lot of people think that if the food is consumed before the best before date, it's safe to eat. Whereas if it's consumed after the best before date, it's not safe to eat. And so therefore, once the best before date is reached, they throw out the food. In reality, best before dates have nothing whatsoever to do with food safety. That's a completely different discussion. It has everything to do with food quality. So we're talking about food spoilage, taste, freshness, and nutritional content.
So someone might be saying, but if it's after that date and it looks a little funky, then that does have to do with I'm going to get sick. I'm not taking the chance. How should people think about best before dates in terms of, is it always good a week after that date, or does it depend on the product? Help us understand how we should make decisions.
So just that question or that point you just made. Let's use milk as an example. So milk is pasteurized to kill the harmful bacteria, things like Salmonella, E. coli, that would make us sick. But the milk is not sterile. There's still bacteria growing in it. That's why if we put it in the fridge, even if we don't open it, the milk will spoil. We've all consumed, I'm sure, at some point, sour milk. It will not make us sick because the bacteria there might spoil the food, but it can't grow in our body and make us sick. So we're really talking about spoilage here. And in the context of spoilage, we can use our senses to determine if it's acceptable. So if it looks good, if it smells good, if it tastes good, regardless of whether the best before date has passed, then consume it. That's my advice to Canadians. Obviously, if it looks off, or smells off, or tastes off, even though we can't get sick from it, from bacteria growing in it, you don't really want to eat it at that point. The nutrition is broken down. It doesn't taste good or smell good, so who wouldn't want to eat that? So just throw it away.
What if I've had it in the fridge and it's past the best before date, but I've never cracked it open? Does that actually add as well, a longer time where it's consumable and a better quality?
Well, that's a great point. Best before dates only apply to foods that are unopened. Because once they've been opened, the manufacturer has lost control over that food. So what I mean by that is they can't guarantee how the consumers have stored the food, right? If the food should be refrigerated, for example, they can't control whether somebody has taken the food home and left it on the fridge or left it at room temperature. So it only refers to unopened products.
Are there common things, Lawrence, that you hear about that people do almost always throw out too early, even though they're usually still fine?
Yeah. So I was just about to say that, yogurt, for example, is a great example of this, where the product is unopened, yogurt cups in the fridge, in the back of the fridge, and then somebody finds them and they look at the best before date, it's passed, and they immediately throw it away. That product could be fine to eat. We regularly blow through the best before dates in our house. And the yogurt's fine. Other products include, we've talked about dairy products like milk, hard cheeses, like, that might have mold on it, like cheddar, for example. You can just cut off that where the mold is and eat that. Pasta is a big one that people throw away a lot. Dry foods like pasta can be stored indefinitely. They certainly will not spoil. Because there's no water for the bacteria, the spoilage bacteria to grow. So those are some of the common foods that people tend to throw away that they don't need to.
Condiments. What about the things that sit on our doors of the fridge or maybe the back of the fridge for a long time?
Yes, thank you. Condiments is another one. That's fine. to keep, unless we see that there's spoilage.
You mentioned cutting off the mold on the cheese, which all of us can probably relate to try to, you continue to eat the good part. What about something like that does have some wet content? So a lot of these things, I know I eat them, frankly, that these, pre-made salads, the bag salads, and then if they're past their best before, they might still smell okay in part of the bag, but then maybe part of the bag is still, it's starting to go, it's a bit wet. Can you eat the good part, leave the wet part? Is that the vegetable equivalent of cutting off the mold?
Yeah, you can do that. If it looks fine, then you can eat that. Those types of products like the bagged lettuce, the cut lettuce and so forth, and they're wet. Part of it's wet, and the other part, what that likely means is that the rest of it's going to spoil soon. Yeah. Right, because it can move throughout the. But if it looks fine, again, we're not talking about safety here. This is spoilage. It's fine.
What's the last word you want to say on this before you go this morning that you'd like people to keep in mind as we as a country try to decrease food waste?
Yeah, ignore the best before date. If the food looks or tastes fine, smells fine, go ahead and eat it. Food safety is a completely different discussion. We can't control that or know anything about that. We have to rely on the food producers to produce food according to regulations that the government, federal and provincial have, and if they do that, we can be assured that the majority of the food that we consume is safe.
All right, Lawrence, thank you.
Thank you.
Lawrence Goodridge, a professor of food safety at the University of Guelph. Well, before the news, we have time to slide in some new music. The brothers Landreth have released their fifth studio album, and we have the title track. This is Dog Ear on 89.3 FM.
When big ocean swells come to swallow you whole, when you need a life raft, you need a boat. When the water does rise, when it comes down again, I'll be the shore, my friend. I'll be the shore, my friend. When shades are drawn and the walls are closing in, when you're holding on but you're starting to bend, when you know to leave but you're just not sure when, I'll be the door, my friend. I'll be the door, my friend. Whatever that means, I will always be your evergreen, evergreen. Holy, humble, wicked, wise, nothing lasts forever, but everything tries. When you get lost in that story again, I'll be the dog ear, my friend. Evergreen, whatever that means, I will always be your evergreen, evergreen.
Brothers Landreth. They have released their 5th studio album. It's called Dog Year. That track's about marking moments in your life, like a dog year in a book. I like that image. I also just love how haunting their music always is, right? Like the sound of the voice when they really get in there. It's just beautiful. We're lucky to have them rep us here from Manitoba. They've always been generous with their time on CBC as well. It is right now -4 in Winnipeg. The commute's fine, 788-3093. Friday morning. If you do have a problem that pops up, whether it's in the city or on the highways, let us know. In some parts of the province, you might have partly covered highways with the snow that's fallen, so take it easy out there. It didn't seem as slick underfoot when I was walking. One morning this week, it was just so greasy out there, but not too bad. Coming up, we have business news, but right now it is time for your 6:30 CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 6:30. It's a little chilly. It's -4 right now, but it's going to be a beautiful Friday. Mix of sun and clouds this afternoon, southerly breeze, and a high of 1. Children's shoes lined the walkway and stairs leading up to the Manitoba legislature last night. The shoes, lit up by artificial candles, were there honoring Ukrainian children who have died because of the war. Oksana Huditsa was among those who showed up to the event. She and her husband were living in Poland for work when the war started. Feeling like they couldn't return to Ukraine, they then moved to Manitoba.
These children, not all of this, more than these numbers, just die because they can't move, can't live. And today is a Children's Day, and we can't pronounce every name of children who was died in Ukraine, but we can stay here, pray, and just hope the war is end.
Close to 750 children have died since Russia's mass invasion of Ukraine in 2022. That's according to numbers from the United Nations Human Rights Office of the High Commissioner. Calls for the Canadian Museum for Human Rights to reevaluate plans for a new exhibit on the Nakba. Nakba is the Arabic term for catastrophe, which Palestinians use to describe a defining moment of their history. Hundreds of thousands were forced out or left their homes during the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. Israel disputes it forced out Palestinians. The Jewish Heritage Centre of Western Canada says there was no consultation on this exhibit with the Jewish community. Aisha Khan is head of the Human Rights Museum.
Because this story is about the experiences of Palestinian Canadians, we consulted with Palestinian Canadians. They're the ones who can share with us how their community has experienced displacement.
The Jewish Heritage Center is concerned this exhibit will lack balanced research and historical and current geopolitical context. The center wants the decision reevaluated and is withdrawing from the museum's Holocaust Remembrance Day programming. A 30-year-old man is losing access to a drug that slows the effects of his degenerative disease. Jeremy Bray's disease has gradually robbed him of the ability to move his muscles. He pleaded with the Manitoba government to pay for this hugely expensive drug. The drug's maker instead gave it to Bray for free on compassionate grounds. But now that company is ending the free coverage, and the province won't intervene because it doesn't want to overrule Canada's drug agency. It does not recommend the treatment for adults over the age of 25. Bray wants the province to reconsider.
I want to get in the room with them and for them to look me in the eye and tell me why they're unwilling to fund this drug that has been already shown to work for me.
Bray is in a wheelchair. He says the drug was helping him regain his energy and move more of his face again. 11 people have been hurt in a grizzly bear attack in BC during a trip by elementary school students. It happened in Bella Coola, more than 400 kilometers northwest of Vancouver yesterday. A parent who saw it says teachers fought off the bear, with one teacher taking the worst of its blows. That teacher was one of the victims airlifted to hospital. 2 are in critical condition, 2 are serious, while the other 7 were treated on the scene for minor injuries. The grizzly has reportedly not been captured, and that has New Hawk First Nation telling people to stay inside, adding it is devastated for the victims. You can hear more on this story as well as other national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. Help is on the way for pet owners feeling the squeeze this holiday season. The Winnipeg Humane Society has launched its first ever pet food holiday hamper program. It aims to put together about 100 hampers for dogs and cats. The Humane Society's community outreach manager, Kendra Galbraith, says the need for pet food has been surging over the last couple of months.
We were typically getting 80 clients a month, and we thought that was quite a bit. Last month we had 301 clients come through the food bank, so we realized the need is extremely there.
The Humane Society is accepting hamper donations until December 3rd. Items can include food, toys, litter, collars, even poop bags. Hampers will be distributed on December 16th at the West End Resource Centre. And Winnipeg is in for another mild November weekend, but it looks like winter could be just around the corner after a month with only a few flakes and temperatures much warmer than seasonal. Natalie Hazel is a meteorologist at Environment and Climate Change Canada. She says temperatures should start getting colder Monday night, likely meaning the white stuff isn't far behind.
If we do get precipitation then, it should stick. It should stay on the ground because temperatures are not expected to be above zero after that anytime soon.
Still, Hazel says Environment Canada's most recent projections call for above normal temperatures right through to January in Manitoba and for most of the country. You can find the latest news on our website. Just head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thank you, Heather Wells.
Thank you.
Well, I want to read a couple comments here just before we get into our regional forecast and into our Friday morning and what it looks like, because 2 weeks from today, on another Friday morning, we are going to be making the season kind. And that means we come together in support of Harvest Manitoba and all its food banks that it supports across the province as well in different meal programs and agencies to play music on the show and on the shows all day long. And then we share stories about hunger and need in our province. And we come together to see what we can give. And Manitoba, you're always so generous on that day. It's a special day for us here at CBC. But to try to get the temperature of what's happening, knowing inflation and poverty and all the challenges, we're still waiting for Harvest's official report to come out about what that looks like. I simply asked on Facebook if you have a story to share with me about hunger. Please share. Living with it, living through it, feeding it maybe. I know with all the Manitoba families out there who are struggling and across the country too. I just wondered if folks are, cooking together, where you're finding community and strength to get over some of the societal stigma that can come with this and simply get some help. And so we got so many comments that I was just really humbled by all of it. Comments like a friend and I have a farm share. If I have a lot even, then I invite a friend to have dinner. Little goes to waste. People writing about groups like Soup Sisters and Broth Brothers. Someone writing to me when I was working years ago for a local TV station. I remember one day that I went home and I had to fish through the cushions, this person writes, on my couch for enough loose change to afford a no-name bag of ramen noodles. And then someone said they have a friend who's making sure her kids are eating, and that means she hasn't had food in days. These are stories about our friends and our neighbors and the people that we walk alongside. And so if you can make a date with us 2 weeks from today for harvesting, for our day of harvest, make the season kind, please do. It's always a day that is sobering and uplifting, I would say. And I just love the music. So thanks to everyone who's been sharing with me. I'll follow through with some of the things that you've shared. And some of these things maybe will end up on air as stories. Some of them will just be there for us to share together and understand each other better as we move forward and try to make sure everyone's eating. Okay, let's get into what's happening in the regional forecast. I'll just give you the around the province look right now. In southern Manitoba, and in fact all over Manitoba, frankly, after today, on the weekend, things get warmer. We've got a couple days where things are going to be above seasonal, and then next week it kind of dips right back to seasonal, like colder than we've even been so far this year. So today, though, we start like this. Sunny in Winnipeg. Today's high is going to be 1 degree. And then tomorrow, windy but warm. Winds will be northwest 30 to 50. The high is 6 degrees. Right now it's -4. Brandon, mainly clear and minus 11 right now, but you'll be sunny today. Your high is going to be 4 degrees. Tomorrow, just like Winnipeg, that warmth comes, sunny and a high of 7 degrees. You're going to be windy as well. In Thompson, light snow is falling now. It's -8. Today, you'll be around -6. The light snow should end. And then tomorrow for you, your high is -1. Pardon me, tomorrow, Thompson, you're getting above 0. You're going to be 1 degree. Your snow should end in the morning, and then you're cloudy on the back of that. Sunday is still nice. Winnipeg's going to be 6. Brandon's going to be 8 degrees. Thompson's going to be -2. And then, as I said, we're starting to see that shift next week, which we shouldn't complain about because next week, I can't believe I'm saying this, is the last week of November. All right, it's 20 to 7. Sierra Sanders is here to tee up the commute.
Good morning. Not hearing about anything major happening here in the city that's getting in your way or slowing you down here in the 6 o'clock hour. But I did get a call from Mike, and he this morning is driving from Dauphin to Yorkton. And he mentioned that when you get to the Grandview area, there is lots of fog, enough for him to drop his speed down 20 kilometers an hour. So the fog is super heavy there in that Grandview area on your way there. So Mike was driving from Dauphin to Yorkton this morning, and he mentioned that when you get to the Grandview area, there's lots of fog and it's very heavy, so much so that he had to drop his speed about 20 kilometers an hour. So if you are on that route this morning, keep that in mind if you are on the highway there, because that's pretty serious. Dropping your speed down that much means it's pretty heavy and you're not, and your visibility is a lot less than usual. So keep that in mind if that is on your commute this morning if you are out on the highways. But again, if you are out on the highways, I'd love to know what you're seeing. Be like Mike and give me a call on the CBC commuter line, or if you're here in the city and something's getting in your way, I'd love to know about it. That number is 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Sierra.
Thank you.
Hallie Cottenham is here. Sierra just said, be like Mike. Now my head's back in that, wasn't a cereal ad back in the day, Hallie? I don't know if you remember that.
Yes.
It was Mike Jordan, right? Michael Jordan.
Mike. Oh, no, I'm thinking of the Life cereal.
Oh,
Give it
be
to
like
Mikey.
Mikey, the Mikey
anything.
likes it thing. Yeah.
Yes.
There's multiple Be Like Mikes.
There you go.
Apparently you're very cool if your name is Mike, so thanks for calling the listener line, Mike. The traffic line, rather. Hallie Cottenham here with our business news. We've missed you. Welcome back.
Thank you. This is my last day, by the way, and I'm sorry the video is not there for you.
No
for your
worries.
viewers.
If people are on YouTube, they've got a gorgeous picture of you up there, and they can hear your dulcet tones, so we're good.
Am I wearing a pink sweater in that picture?
No, you're wearing yellow.
Oh. Okay, good.
now you want to know.
No. It's so funny because the pink picture, the pink sweater picture, is many years ago, but I just sort of kept on clinging to that picture. But
there's
anyway.
a photo of me up on vans at CBC Manitoba that is literally 11 years old. And I'm like,
I hear you, sister.
I'm like, okay, a little more gray now. Let's talk about a deal that's been signed overnight between Canada and the United Arab Emirates. We heard a bit on World Report. What's your take on this? Can you remind us of the details?
Well, the Prime Minister's office sent out this advisory, basically all caps in the wee hours, saying this deal is signed, that would see the UAE invest $70 billion in Canada to be poured into projects related to energy and AI logistics and critical minerals mining. It's called a Foreign Investment Promotion and Protection Agreement, or FIPA. The timeline isn't clear, and it isn't without controversy. I'm sure that's what you're hearing on World Report with questions and allegations around UAE's human rights record in the Sudan. But it is being framed this morning by the PMO as a vote of confidence in the Canadian economy at a time, as you know, we're looking for new friends, especially new friends with very, very deep pockets. UAE has trillions to invest worldwide. This was the first visit of a Canadian Prime Minister to the UAE in more than 40 years. And the Prime Minister has invited Emirati investors to come here, to pay a visit to Canada, check out our major projects. The hope is that this FIPA deal or agreement will lead to a full-on trade agreement, one that would see Canadian businesses expand further into the Emirates, including engineering projects, construction, aerospace, as well as increasing our exports of agricultural crops and seafood to them. So that's what's breaking overnight. As we were sleeping, deals were being struck.
Now, we've talked, of course, about food costs going up, but you have a story this morning that puts some meat in the bone.
Yeah, a new survey about Canadians' perceptions around affordability. This is the latest edition of the Canadian Food Sentiment Index out of Dalhousie University. The results show, perhaps not surprisingly, it is the dominant household financial worry for Canadians. more than 4 out of 5 people say it's their top expense pressure or concern, at least, and that's ahead of utilities, housing, transportation, and entertainment, perhaps because, it's in your face every day. Half of the respondents, nearly 3,000, said food costs increased significantly over the past year. Almost half say they've changed their grocery habits, like they're seeking out sales or discounts or using coupons or switching brands or stores. The survey shows that we're buying fewer non-essentials, such as ice cream, but even fewer foods that are considered now premium, such as meat or fruit.
And finally, you have a story about toys this morning, just ahead of the holiday season. But this is about who's buying them and then for whom.
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenging market in a struggling economy. And our colleague, Natalie Stutchison, has this deep dive on CBC.ca. I encourage your listeners to check it out. And really, she's exploring how the toy industry is in flux. To give you some examples, Toys R Us Canada closed some 38 stores this year. It once had 103 Canadian locations. Now it has only 40. Mastermind Toys, based out of Toronto, almost went bankrupt in 2023, closing down 18 of its stores. It's down to 48. So these bigger stores, these big box stores, losing out in large part to next day delivery, click and buy, according to the CEO of Retail Profit, Doug Stevens, pointing out that online and digital games have, quote, obliterated the toy category. As kids, perhaps kids are asking for Robux this Christmas instead of building blocks. And yet, here's where this story turns. Toy sales in Canada were up 18% in the first half of the year. This is according to the Canadian Toy Association. What's selling? Board games, puzzles, building sets, trading cards, plush stuffies, etc., collectibles in high demand, which is a bit of a head twist when you consider all those stores closing. So where is the growth? Here's Andrew Wagar, who heads up Swerve Strategic Marketing, sits on the board of the Canadian Toy Association.
The major driver of that growth are what we would call in the industry, adult collectors, or, the big trending term is kidult.
The big trending term, kidult. Have you heard of kidults?
I have not.
No. Adults who buy kids' toys.
Okay.
That's what he's getting at.
Makes sense. It's a good word.
I learned another acronym, AFOL, A-F-O-L. Do you know what that stands for?
Nope.
Adult fan of Lego.
I live with them.
Yeah.
I live with one of those. So
Yes.
I know. And now I get to call him an apple. I love that.
Yes, you could do that.
My love of my life is also an apple.
Careful with that, right? So I found an example of this, an online influencer, Macy Savannah, who runs a channel called Macy's Bricks online.
Something about being an adult with access to adult money made me start Lego, and then I didn't stop. I'm like over 100 sets past casual fan.
So I mentioned one of those other things that are selling are plush toys. Are you a fan? Do you know about Jellycats, Marcy?
A fan of what was that?
Jellycats.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so they have a bunch of, aimed at kids, but they also have some adult ones.
I love the Jellycat stuff for Christmas. Like, they have little holly and stuff. Like, they have little ones you can put on your tree. Like, they're so cute. They're always smiling at you. Who doesn't like that?
They have, I saw one just this week, a new one for me, ginger root. It's like a...
Cute.
It's
ginger. It's
barely
ginger root.
recognizable, but it is anyway. Ski goggles, cheese fondue, and new to me this time of year, it's a coconut cocktail. With a little umbrella and straw. Anyway, these kids are not buying these. It's not kids who are buying these. It's adults, and that's what's driving those toy sales.
Hallie, lovely, cheerful way to say goodbye. I'm sure you'll be back on the airwaves soon, but thanks for the report today.
Talk soon, Marcy. Take care.
As Hallie said, that is her final business report with us. Christelle Ramlakan returning full-time Monday. Hallie Cotnam with our business news this morning. 13 minutes to 7 o'clock, and we were just talking about Make the Season Kind this year. CBC Manitoba's Day in support of Harvest Manitoba and its member agencies coming up 2 weeks from today. Well, a big part of the day is music, and we have confirmed that Bobby Dove is going to be joining us in studio for his special live musical performance this year. They're going to be playing on Radio Noon, so you want to tune in to the music that day. Bobby Dove's Trans-Canadian Blues is what we have teed up to roll for you this morning. This is from the follow-up, a follow-up to their 2021 album, Hopeless Romantic.
I doubled up and buckled down First come the morning, I was in Saskatchewan. God it through the prairies, I was getting pretty weary. In the setting sun, I recognized my home. Pulled into the gravel and stepped out of the saddle, always dreaming of the next time that I go. I'm a lonesome boy on a lonesome road, with a heavy heart and a heavy load. That's life I had to choose. Highway bound, trans-Canadian blues. I'm a lonesome boy.
That is going to be fun on Radio Noon 2 weeks from today as part of Make the Season Kind. Bobby Dove, one of the live performers that we will have here in our CBC studio. This is Trans-Canadian Blues on 89.3 FM. Little shades of Johnny Cash's voice in there, I think, right? Very cool. Love it. We're just confirming all our musicians. We hope you can join us. It's going to be a really lovely day. Next on the show, let's talk about someone that just went into a new position. Leanne Karen officially started her new role as Manitoba's first seniors advocate last week. As we get older, we often need extra support. Sometimes we get the support through benefits and resources, but for many seniors, navigating all that's a lot. And they end up relying on their adult children to figure it out for them. This week, in her series, Money in the Middle, personal finance columnist Rabina Ahmed Huck looks at the challenge of that relationship.
When my mom fell and fractured her hip, it was a huge learning curve for me, my siblings, and my father. No guidebook tells you how things are going to go, and the healthcare options vary depending on several factors. In the end, we made decisions as a family, but what the experience showed me is this time in a senior's life is one of the most challenging to navigate, and having your adult children involved is key to making it successful. But that relationship is not always easy.
What you want to do is position yourself as a partner in your parents' wellness.
Pat Irwin is the founder and president of Elder Care Canada. She helps families manage the choices available to senior family members. This includes how to manage money, where to get the best care, and how to decide who's in charge if a person becomes unable to make their own decisions.
There's millions of ways to talk about it, but here's an example. Are you power of attorney for your parents' property and health? If not, who is? And do they know you? And do you know them? Where are their bank accounts? Who is their financial planner? Who's their family doctor? Do they know you? Do you know them? Because when the chips are down and something's got to be done, if they don't know you from a hole in the ground, it makes life very difficult.
Irwin says the most difficult conversations are often around money. Adult children usually have one idea and senior parents have another. Asking someone to spend their savings on at-home care or services like cooking, cleaning, and companionship is usually not well received.
There's a lot of anger that this has happened to me now. I'm relying on my kids, or I'm not the person I used to be. I am furious about this, and don't you remind me, and don't you rub my nose in it, blah, blah, blah.
I'm not sure they're aware of the cost.
Elizabeth McNabb is the executive director of the Ontario Society of Senior Citizens Organizations. They also provide services to help Canadians prepare for this stage in life. For example, what services are covered by the government? What free support is available? And where can you find reliable private care? In her experience, most of us are unaware of how expensive life gets as we get older.
You still have the cost of your accommodations. As you age, you're going to start purchasing services, somebody to come in and do housekeeping, somebody to do some meal preparation. You may have given up driving, so you're relying on Ubers or taxis to take you wherever you need to go, for hairdressing, for food, for socialization. You may need repairs on your home.
McNabb says adult children often step in to help seniors who are unable to support these extra costs. For the kids, this could mean cutting back on their own household budget. She recommends having the money conversation early and making changes now. So when the need arises for extra services, the basics of a safe home and access to support are already there.
Invest in what needs to happen at that point in time. And if the family dynamic is preventing you, the child, dealing with the parent, or you, the parent, dealing with your child, there's always additional resources to help you find the best path for all of you.
Both women say in most cases, families wait until there's an emergency situation to make changes and have harder conversations around money and lifestyle. They recommend that adult children and senior parents keep the dialogue open. For kids, if a family member is cognitively sharp, leave the decision-making to them and simply be a source of comfort. And under no circumstance, try to parent your parents. For CBC Radio, I'm Rubina Ahmed Huq.
You can hear more of Rubina Ahmed Huq in her various columns. You can find them online. And thanks to her for this morning. This issue, by the way, is confronting an increasing number of Canadians. According to the latest numbers from Stats Canada, there are now more than 8 million people in this country who are 65 years and older. And that's that boomer generation getting up there. And the generation in the middle, that Gen X generation, is a smaller generation trying to keep up with all of those needs. So it's certainly a top-of-mind conversation for a lot of families. It is 3 minutes to 7 o'clock. Let's go to Heather Wells and find out more about Manitoba News headlines.
Good morning. Well, the Canadian Museum for Human Rights is defending a decision to open a new exhibit on the Nakba. That is the Arabic term for catastrophe, which Palestinians used to describe a defining moment of their history when hundreds of thousands were forced out or left their homes in the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. We're going to hear response from the Jewish Heritage Center of Western Canada, which says it was not consulted. So we'll hear more on that. And a man with a rare disease says the treatment he relies on to help slow it is being revoked. 30-year-old Jeremy Bray has a neurological disease slowly taking away his ability to move his muscles. His story is coming up in our next local news at 7:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
-4 in Winnipeg right now, mainly clear on your Friday morning, a high today of 1, and we're going to have lots of sunshine and be even warmer tomorrow, but a little windy. If you need us on the morning commute, give us a call. Mike did that. He was driving Dauphin to Yorkton. Part of that drive was around Grandview, and he said there's a lot of fog there. He had to drop his speed. So take it easy if you're up around that area, and give us a call if you have a problem, either on the highways or in the city. We'll pass it along on CBC. 788-3093. In the next hour of Information Radio, a policy developer questions the Premier's natural gas power plant in Western Manitoba. He's skeptical about how easily it could be converted into renewable energy. The province is saying they're hoping to be on green energy by 2035, but right now it has to be natural gas. So we'll find out what some of those concerns are about that decision that came out in the throne speech. In addition, in the next hour, to build on some of what Heather's had in the news, a new Palestinian exhibit at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, as you've been hearing, is causing controversy for some of CMHR's Jewish supporters. We're going to hear from the museum's CEO in the next hour here of Information Radio. And ER wait times, we've been reporting on them a lot here across Manitoba, and through the eyes of the patients who have been sitting in the ER for many hours, and also some who've been leaving. That's the focus of a new report nationally. We're going to hear from CBC's Chris Glover in the next hour about how Manitoba compares and what the risk is when patients do decide they're not going to wait any longer. Stay tuned. World Report is next.
Today on The Current.
The building sits quite literally on the border, marked by black tape on the floor.
The Haskell Free Library straddles the border between Vermont and Quebec and is now caught up in the talk about Canada-U.S. relations. We'll be there with a live audience and guests including novelist Louise Penny and musician Patrick Watson. It's a live special edition of The Current.
The Current with Matt Galloway. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. Emergency room doctors are worried about a growing trend. New data analyzed by CBC Marketplace show about 500,000 Canadians left emergency departments before being seen by a physician last year. Doctors say long ER wait times mean patients are getting sicker at home. Marketplace co-host Chris Glover reports.
It was chaotic, it was loud.
Susan Gordon describes the Moncton ER she went to with severe stomach pain in June. She waited for hours until she gave up and went home. Her pain intensified until eventually she collapsed and was rushed back to the ER.
She said it's your appendix. I needed to have surgery and they were doing it immediately.
The health authority that runs the Moncton Hospital says it doesn't want any patient to leave without seeing a doctor. But the reality is, it's happening across the country. In New Brunswick, 12% of ER patients walked out last year. That's nearly 60,000 people. The share of walkouts was even higher in Manitoba and PEI. The national trend has increased since 2019, when in most provinces, fewer than 10% of patients left.
We know we work in a system that is falling apart.
Dr. Fraser Mackay with the Canadian Association of Emergency Physicians says walkouts are a serious concern.
It's rare that a shift will go by where one of the patients I'll see isn't someone that was there yesterday or the day before and couldn't handle the weight and left. And now they come back, and now they're that much sicker.
Experts agree chronic understaffing, a lack of family doctors, and hospitals at capacity are causing long ER waits in Canada. Provincial governments tell CBC News they're trying to expand capacity and hire more staff. Chris Glover, CBC News, Moncton.
And you can catch the full Marketplace investigation tonight at 8 p.m., 8:30 in Newfoundland on CBC TV, YouTube, and CBC Gem. A bear attack in northern BC leaves 11 people injured.
The bear attack was called into the police at around 1:35, saying that multiple people had been injured by a bear. It was reported that there were students.
That's RCMP Corporal Madonna Saunderson. The students she's talking about are from an elementary school in Bella Coola, about 700 kilometers north of Vancouver. The attack happened on a trail near the rural coastal community. 4 of the injured are in critical or serious condition in hospital. A parent of one of the children says teachers fought off the attacking animal. The bear ran off, and at last report is still on the loose. Prime Minister Mark Carney is on his way to Johannesburg for the G20 after a busy few days with business leaders in the United Arab Emirates. Carney says the relationship between Canada and the UAE is about to dramatically ramp up, and he addressed the human rights concerns in Sudan. Karina Roman has more from Abu Dhabi.
On the surface, to the uninitiated, Canada and the UAE can appear as different as snow and sand. Yet we're deeply aligned.
Prime Minister Mark Carney says both countries are trading nations, both energy superpowers.
I'm pleased that an agreement valued over $1 billion that's in the process of being finalized will expand critical minerals processing capacity in Canada.
Canada doesn't want to be merely a raw mineral supplier, but a country that can transform them into what the world wants. And the UAE clearly wants a stake in that.
This is one of the wealthiest and one of the most dynamic economies in the world.
The UAE's sovereign wealth funds will visit Canada. Canada's pension funds will visit the UAE. Canada's international trade minister will lead a business delegation to the UAE. And there will be more direct commercial flights between the two nations. But the growing relationship is not without controversy. The UAE faces allegations, ones it denies, of backing a paramilitary group responsible for mass violence in Sudan. Carney says Sudan came up in his meeting with the UAE president on Thursday.
We did discuss the situation in Sudan. We did discuss the importance of the Quad process, which is the UAE, Saudi Arabia, the United States, and Egypt, and the role that they are playing, they need to play in establishing a ceasefire and peace.
The next stop for Carney is the G20 in South Africa, where he will continue telling world leaders that Canada is open for business. Karina Roman, CBC News, Abu Dhabi.
A moment of tragedy at the Abu Dhabi Air Show this morning, or the Dubai Air Show this morning, rather. Eyewitness video shows the moment an Indian Tejas fighter jet seemed to lose control and flew directly into the ground. Smoke and flame exploded into the air as it crashed inside the perimeter of the airfield. Police and emergency personnel rushed to the crash site. Firefighters sprayed foam to extinguish the flames. India's Air Force is confirming the plane's pilot has died. For the second time this week, armed gunmen in Nigeria have abducted school children. It happened at a Catholic boarding school in the central part of the country. Police say the gunmen stormed a compound early this morning. Officials are not saying how many are kidnapped, but local media reports say it's more than 50. Last Monday, 25 girls were abducted from a high school in a nearby state. It's not clear at this point who carried out the attacks. Ukrainian officials say they're ready to work with the U.S. on its latest peace proposal, but President Volodymyr Zelensky is choosing his words carefully and making it clear there are some things his country simply will not agree to. Crystal Gamansing has more.
There will never be any recognition, formal or otherwise, of Ukrainian territory temporarily occupied by the Russian Federation as Russian.
Christine Hayovshin, Ukraine's deputy UN ambassador, was clear in laying out Ukraine's red lines. She told the UN Security Council Ukraine's territorial and political sovereignty is not up for negotiation.
Ukraine will not accept any limits on its right to self-defense or on the size and capabilities of our armed forces.
While the U.S. and Ukraine acknowledge the new deal on the table, exactly what's being proposed has not been officially made public. It has been reported that Russia wants limits placed on the size of Ukraine's military and won't allow NATO troops to be on the ground as a part of a security guarantee. Points that were already talked about months ago and rejected by Ukraine, Europe, and the Secretary General of NATO.
President of the United States personally.
Mike Waltz is the U.S. ambassador to the UN.
We have proposed generous terms for Russia, including sanctions relief. We have asked Russia to halt its attacks.
Other than ending the war, it's unclear what demands are being placed on Russia. In his nightly address, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said no sharp statements would be made. He played on the U.S.'s position in the world as a powerful nation, saying American strength can bring peace closer. Crystal Gamansing, CBC News, London.
Global Democratic leaders are gathering in Halifax today as the 17th annual Halifax International Security Forum gets underway. The three-day international conference, hosted by Canada's Defence Minister David McGuinty, will focus entirely on the future of democracy and global security. The scale of the meeting is significant. Delegations include 9 U.S. senators, Canada's Chief of Defence Staff, and defence ministers from Sweden, the Netherlands, Latvia, Estonia, and Colombia. And finally, Alberta's government says it wants professionals to be able to speak their minds outside of work. So much so, it's tabled a bill protecting freedom of expression. But as Sam Sampson reports, critics say this bill could have damaging consequences.
No professional should fear losing their license, their reputation, or their livelihood because of a personal opinion.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith is putting that opinion in writing. The Regulatory Professions Neutrality Act would limit disciplinary actions when it comes to member behavior and expressions outside of work. It would apply to several professional bodies, including those involved in healthcare, education, finance, and trades.
Are regulators still focused on public safety and professional competence, or are some of them overstepping to enforce ideological conformity?
Irfan Sabir is the Alberta NDP justice critic. He worries this bill would allow people to spread misinformation, among other things.
And essentially what it says that people should be able to say all kind of vile, inappropriate, incorrect things outside their professional work.
The bill would also restrict what mandatory courses regulatory bodies can enforce, including those focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion education. University of Calgary health law professor Lorian Hardcastle says that ignores the purpose of those training programs, like in healthcare, where racism can weaken the level of care a patient receives.
That kind of training around cultural competency and EDI can actually have patient safety implications. It isn't just sort of feel good, learn about other cultures.
If the bill passes, not all off-duty conduct is off the table. Actions like abuse or threats won't be protected. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Edmonton.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Good Friday morning, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We're live in downtown Winnipeg. Thanks for joining us. We're going to be pretty nice through the weekend weather-wise. This morning, though, a little crisp, -4. This hour on the show, I just got off doing a special report, an interview with Chris Glover, who you might have heard on World Report just now. They looked at ER wait times in this country getting longer, but specifically they crunched the numbers to get a sense of the impact that has, especially when patients leave the emergency room. He has data from Manitoba in this report, and we're going to hear from him coming up at 10 to 7 this morning. Also, this hour on Information Radio, a new Palestinian exhibit over at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights is causing some controversy that's in some of CMHR's Jewish supporters. They have concerns about how they were not consulted, they say. We're going to hear from the museum's CEO. But we begin talking about something that came out of the throne speech. A policy developer questions for the Premier's natural gas power plant in Western Manitoba. He's skeptical about how easily it could be converted into renewable energy in the future. And remember, the NDP government promised to be all green energy by 2035. So we're going to walk through some of those concerns. Right now, though, Heather Wells has details on other stories developing this Friday morning, and she's in our news center. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, children's shoes lined the walkway and stairs leading up to the Manitoba legislature last night. Those shoes were lit up by artificial candles and were there to honor Ukrainian children who have died because of the war. We're going to hear from an organizer of last night's event coming up. And help is on the way for pet owners feeling the squeeze this holiday season. The Winnipeg Humane Society has launched its first ever pet food holiday hamper program. It hopes to put out about 100 hampers for dogs and cats, and it would like you to help as well. We'll hear more coming up in our next local news at 7:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
It is right now 12 minutes after 7 o'clock, and Abby is off today. I'm covering weather here. As I mentioned, it's crisp this morning, but not nice. Mainly clear. It's -5. We've actually dipped another degree. When you look at the day, though, our high is going to be 1 degree. We'll have lots of sunshine, and we'll have a mix of sun and cloud maybe this afternoon, but light wind. Winds will be south at 20. Warm spots, Victoria Beach this hour. It's -2. There's light snow falling up in Thompson, and your cold spot is Lynn Lake, which is at -11. And so is Brandon, by the way, right now, -11. But you, ironically, are going to end up warmer than all of us over in Brandon. By the end of the day, you could see a high of 7 with sun. All right, Sarah Sanders has popped in to talk about the commute. Good morning.
Good morning. I will say I wish I was in Brandon if it's going to be 7 degrees.
7 sounds like almost like, you're sneaking the jackets off. And
Exactly. You could get away with like a vest or something like that. You know what I mean?
Pretty nice.
Well, anyways, I just wanted to mention a call that we got a little while ago now, but maybe worth mentioning still. I got a call from Mike. He was driving from Dauphin to Yorkton this morning, and he mentioned that when you get to Grandview on Highway 5 there, he mentioned there's lots of fog, and it was so much that he had to lessen or lower his speed about 20 kilometers an hour. So the visibility is a lot less in that area. I don't know what it's looking like now, but if you are in that area, you're on Highway 5 there around the Grandview area as you're heading there on Highway 5. I'd love to know what you're seeing or anywhere else in the province, or if you're here in the city, give me a call on the CBC commuter line so I can know what's going on out there. The number to call is 204-788-3093.
Well, as we have been hearing this week, the NDP government is proposing a $3 billion natural gas power plant. So Premier Wab Kinew confirmed this during his throne speech, and then he was here for an interview this week. He says the facility could later be converted into renewable hydrogen or biomethane. I asked Wab Kinew about why the province can't fuel the new plant right now with renewable energy.
The hydrogen industry does not exist in Manitoba, so that's the first alternative fuel. And then the second is renewable methane, which there is an early stage proponent, I should say, in the Brandon area working on renewable methane. So that one might actually come online relatively soon, like not overnight, but like in the next 3 to 5 years.
So that was Premier Wab Kinew on the show this week on Wednesday. The proposed plant location is in an existing Manitoba hydro generating station. So this would be in Brandon's East End, the city of Brandon. Yesterday, the mayor of Brandon, Jeff Fawcett, was on the air with CBC's Michelle McDougall. He says the new power plant is good news for his city.
Because for one thing, we have to make sure we keep our lights on. We have to make sure that our residents and industry throughout this community keep power.
So that was the mayor of Brandon speaking with CBC. So others are not so optimistic about the plan here. James Wilt is in studio. He's a researcher and policy developer for Climate Action Team Manitoba. He says it is not as easy as politicians are saying to just convert after the fact, and he's with us to talk about it. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So when you hear that this is coming and it's going to be natural gas, what was your initial reaction?
Major disappointment, and we consider it to be a betrayal of the province's climate commitments that they've made as recently as within the last month when they released their climate plan. So we think at this point in time, the province and more generally the world needs to be shifting away from fossil fuel development as quickly as possible, and that means not investing in new fossil fuel infrastructure. So we think it's hugely problematic for that point of view, but also when we consider the genuine alternatives that exist that are viable, that are reliable, and that are arguably more cost effective than gas-fired power, and we can talk about that later, but this is things like grid-scale battery storage combined with wind and solar power. And so we think that this is really a refusal to grapple with the realities of climate change, but also to acknowledge that real alternatives exist for the province.
So the word betrayal is a pretty big one. The Premier is saying by 2035, which is their promise, they will be all green. Are you questioning that they'll be able to make that switch?
Absolutely, yeah. So that's been sort of a curious development as well. When the NDP were first elected, they committed to a net zero electricity grid by 2035. In February, when Manitoba Hydro came forward with its proposal to the Public Utilities Board for a 500 megawatt up to $1.4 billion natural gas plant, the province seemed to back away from that. But then with the recent climate plan, Manitoba's passed to net zero, it recommitted to net zero electricity grid by 2035. And so we took that as an implicit understanding that they couldn't be building new or fossil fuel-based electricity generation. However, it's clear that they think that they can do this while at the same time balancing it with their net zero commitments, which we think is completely out of line with the actual technologies that exist and that will exist, and is also implicitly dependent on carbon sequestration through possibly the direct air capture plant that's being developed near Verdun.
So let's talk about more about the alternatives that you mentioned that you feel that province could have looked at to make this happen.
Of course.
Because obviously we're all acknowledging we're going to run out of, we're going to run out of power. Like we have to do something to keep the lights on. That's a fact. So what do you think the province should have looked at?
Yeah, for sure. Well, the Premier acknowledged outright that energy efficiency and demand-side management has to be a priority. And Efficiency Manitoba is doing great work around that. There needs to be a lot more work done around that in order to actually reduce peak demand. And so that includes things like making buildings more energy efficient, but also replacing inefficient, for example, electric baseboard heating with ground source heat pumps. And so that's a far more efficient way to heat homes. And so when we hear this being justified on the basis of needing to heat homes, we would argue that you actually need to address the efficiency piece first. But in terms of actual electricity generation, we know that the province is moving forward with up to 600 megawatts of Indigenous-owned wind power, which is great, and we celebrate that. We think that there should be a lot more. But in order to maximize the benefits of wind power, we think that that needs to be accompanied with grid-scale battery storage. And so what you hear a lot about variable renewables, such as wind and solar, is, of course, they can't generate when the wind's not blowing or the sun's not shining, which is a lot of the time. And what energy storage does is store that energy for when it is most needed, and then it can deploy it in moments of peak demand, such as the early mornings and evenings of the coldest days of the year. And so we're seeing battery storage roll out at a massive scale in a lot of parts of the world. China is obviously the leader in this for a lot of reasons, but we're also seeing this in places that you may not expect. Obviously, California would be expected, places like Texas as well, where it's really eroding the gas-fired generation by storing renewable electricity for later.
I just want to push at this a little bit because I was at a house in, now this was many years ago, so the technology's come a long way, but I was at a house that ran on this, the exact what you're talking about, the battery storage, years ago, and it was really cool to see how they ran their whole house. It was it was in Westman, and then we went to a shed on their property, and they had these, it was almost like two giant freezers full, like that size of battery storage to store that extra power. The reason I'm raising that is because I'm thinking to myself, if we're going to do, a whole power plant to ramp up our province and to help our energy needs with and rely on battery storage, what are we talking about here? Like the size of it would be enormous, like nothing we've ever seen before.
Sure.
And then what's the cost of that? And I mean, how long could we possibly get that up and running in time to meet our needs?
No, these are fantastic questions, and questions that we wish the province was actually asking and interrogating in the public. And so a recent report that we put out estimated that Manitoba's peak wintertime requirements could be met with installation of 200 megawatts of battery electric storage, in addition to the rolling out of 600 megawatts of wind power. And so that would maximize sort of the procurement process that's already underway. 200 megawatts is significant. Manitoba has no grid scale energy storage at this point in time, but we look next door to Ontario, and they are scaling up battery storage at an incredible rate. I think something interesting in terms of how it's being framed is, while there's issues with how Ontario is doing in terms of the gas mix in the system, Premier Doug Ford is justifying it on the basis of sort of Trump-proofing Ontario by saying that this is a way to resist the impacts of tariffs is by building this up. And so the largest battery storage project in Canada right now, it's a 250 megawatt project in Ontario. It was opened in May, and it's called the Oneida Energy Storage Project. There's significant Indigenous ownership in it. So that came to about $750 million to build 250 megawatts of energy storage. That's significant. It's nothing to sneeze at. But at the same time, when we're talking about a $3 billion peaker plant, we think that these should be very much in the conversation.
What about the timelines? So the plant itself, they're saying could take, what's your sense of how long it could take?
Yeah.
Based on what the Premier has said about the timelines for this versus the kind of, the energy that you're talking about to build this? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So in Manitoba Hydro's 2023 IRP, they were estimating that the timeline for a gas-powered plant would take about 6 years to build. This is complicated by the fact that there is a global surge in demand for gas-fired power, which is a huge issue from the climate point of view, but it's also a huge issue from procurement. And so there's been recent reports that have suggested that gas turbines are actually going to take between 3 and 7 years for wait lists to be fulfilled.
So that's your way of saying if the province is saying they're going to do this because it's faster, maybe not so much.
No, not
Based
faster,
on that
also
data.
not more cost effective. And in regards to the battery storage, this can be rolled out in 18 months to 2 years. And so this is how Ontario is sort of preparing for its future, is rolling out energy storage within the next 3 to 4 years. And so they've already installed massive capacity in this area, but it can be done far faster than gas-fired power plant and at a cheaper cost.
What's the cheaper cost?
How
much?
Well, for example,
Do we have an estimate? Like if it's $3 billion to do the natural gas plant, they're saying what?
No, for sure. So again, the Oneida Energy Storage Project is 250 megawatts. That was installed for about $750 million, which actually came under budget and ahead of schedule as well. And so we think that that's a rough ballpark. There was also an even larger project, which actually just started construction within the last week, called Skyview 2 in Ontario. And that's budgeted at up to $1 billion for 400 megawatts. And so that's an enormous amount of power. So let's say just for sake of argument, between $700 million and $1 billion in order to create the energy storage that's required to meet Manitoba's peak demand. Of course, energy storage doesn't produce electricity, but it stores it, and so it really has to be developed in coordination with wind power and ideally down the road solar power as well.
So let me ask you about what they have said they're going to do, and just go back to what they've said. What would it take for the facility to convert away from a natural gas plant to something else down the future when they say we'll do that, we'll be able to do that?
Completely unprecedented technological developments and cost reductions. So there's the two different fuels that are being considered. One is hydrogen, as the Premier acknowledged. There is no hydrogen industry in Manitoba. Hydrogen has a bunch of issues when it comes to actually being able to use it in an effective way. One is because it's such a small molecule, it's very prone to leakage. It's also prone to what's called hydrogen embrittlement, and so this actually effectively decays the infrastructure very quickly. But it's also just very energy intensive to produce. And so, the thing that we're hearing a lot about is green hydrogen. And what that requires is renewable electricity to generate the hydrogen, which would then be burned in this particular plant. And so it would require a huge amount of electricity to produce a fuel that would then be burned.
Place.
Yeah.
And what about biomethane?
Yeah, biomethane is something that has been discussed a lot in the context of agricultural waste, but we can also think about landfills or wastewater treatment plants or that kind of thing. Again, it's a massive issue of scale. And so a lot of the plants that have been built around the world are producing enough biomethane for, say, 30, 40, 50 megawatts. This is a 700 megawatts or 750 megawatts power plant. And so it's just a completely different prospect in terms of scale. And there's also a lot of issues with biomethane. It is methane, so if there's any leakage at all, it will almost immediately wipe out any emissions gains. But it can also lock in a lot of really dangerous land use and just agricultural development, which we think that there's far better ways to approach.
Thank you very much for your expertise on all this, and also for coming in with your perspective on why you're disappointed, to say the least, in what the Premier has announced this week.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So that's James Wilton live with us. He's a researcher and policy developer for Climate Action Team Manitoba, reacting to the throne speech this week and the Premier confirming that they will be spending and going forward with a $3 billion natural gas power plant. And as you heard my guest say, he sees it, and many in the community that we're hoping for renewable energy in the future, they see this as a betrayal of a promise the NDP made to be green by 2035, and suggesting there's other alternatives that we should have been looking at. If you want to weigh in, 788-3205. We're going to move now to morning sports. Scott Reguera is joining us live on CBC. Hi to you.
Happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday. Let's start in the NHL. The Jets will be welcoming back a familiar face, right?
Yep. Nick Ehlers, who of course spent 10 seasons with the Jets, making his return as a Carolina Hurricane. Despite the best efforts of Winnipeg's front office, Marcy, to keep the Dane in the city, he decided to take his talents elsewhere. Asked about it at the time, Ehlers said that his departure was inevitable and that he needed to experience something different on and off the ice. Asked about facing his former teammate, defenseman Logan Stanley admitted it's going to be odd.
It can be weird at some points. But yeah, when the puck drops, you know, you're playing for your team and the guys in your room, so it'll be business, but it'll be good to see him after the game and say hi and see how he's doing. You know, a great teammate and someone who, you know, treated me really well from a young age, so nothing but respect for Nicky.
So the Canes and the Jets will play at 7 o'clock tonight. Elsewhere in hockey, Marcy, the PWHL season kicks off this evening. The Toronto Scepters will visit Minnesota, and then later on, the Vancouver Golden Eyes will host the Seattle Torrent in the first game for both those expansion teams. Vancouver has the most Manitoban content with Ashton Bell, a defender from Deloraine, as well as goalie Kristen Campbell, who is from Brandon. And pretty cool. The Pacific Coliseum, the home arena for the Golden Eyes, is sold out. Better than 15,000 will take in tonight's game, which is the largest attendance ever for a PWHL team in its own venue.
Meantime, the Olympic curling trials get underway in Halifax this weekend. What are you watching?
Well, this version of the so-called Roar of the Rings, Marcy's going to have some added value. Given the importance of determining Canada's teams for the Winter Games, organizers have tweaked the format. So it's not going to be a one-off final anymore. It's now a best-of-3 final, something curling legend Russ Howard fully supports.
In my humble opinion, don't tell anybody this, but it's the Rachel Holman rule, right? I think they've gone, you know, look at the last trials. Tracy Fleury went 8-0. She was the best skip by 7%. Lost in an extra end to go to the Olympics. Bang, see you later. Not that we didn't have a good rep in Jennifer Jones, but one game curling, you know what it's like. So I love it. I love it a lot.
It was a disappointing showing for Canada at the last games in Beijing, with Brad Gushue winning the country's lone medal, a bronze. Gushue once again part of the men's field at the Roar of the Rings, and as a guy from Atlantic Canada, I'm sure there'll be plenty of support for him from the fans in Halifax. Among the things to watch from a Manitoba perspective, Gimli's Carrie Anderson. She is the only Canadian skip to beat Rachel Homan's rink in the past 2 years. If she gets by Homan and company this time around, she's going to the Olympics in Italy. So that'll be a lot of fun to watch over the coming week.
What else are you watching? Speaking of watching, following this weekend, there's a lot to choose from.
Yeah, there is. The Raptors, they're on one of the hottest teams in the NBA right now. They can win their 6th straight game tonight. They play against Washington. We have the Vanier Cup tomorrow. Once again, it's Montreal versus Saskatchewan, just like the Grey Cup. The Vanier Cup going tomorrow in Regina. And in footy, quite a match set for Vancouver tomorrow night. 53,000 people at BC Place will take in the Whitecaps game against Los Angeles FC. Vancouver midfielder Ryan Gauld says payback is on the cards against an opponent that's eliminated his team the past 2 years.
Obviously leaves a bitter taste the way the last one's ended. There's definitely a lot of feeling that we want to put things right and make a better statement for the club that we've improved, we're getting better, and we're a serious team.
Gald, Thomas Muller and the Whitecaps against Korean legend Son Heung-min and LAFC in front of 53,000 tomorrow. What a time to be a footy fan in Lotus Land, with the World Cup still to come, too.
All right, Scott, have an awesome weekend. Thank you.
You too.
Scott Regeer live with sports this Friday morning right here on CBC on Information Radio. Thanks for being here with us. The drive has been pretty good so far. We had one call about fog around Grandview. Otherwise, let us know if there's a problem. 788-3093. Your news is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it's chilly. It is -5 right now. Sunny today with a few clouds rolling in this afternoon. Bit of a southerly breeze. We do warm up a bit. Not as warm as yesterday. A high of 1. The Canadian Museum for Human Rights is defending a decision to open a new exhibit on the Nakba. That is the Arabic term for catastrophe, which Palestinians use to describe a defining moment of their history. Hundreds of thousands forced out or left their homes during the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. Israel disputes forcing out Palestinians, and the Jewish Heritage Center of Western Canada has concerns this exhibit will lack historical and current geopolitical context. Aisha Khan is the head of the Human Rights Museum.
This exhibit isn't a historical retrospective. This exhibit is about the experiences of Palestinian Canadians who have lived through forced displacement and their families. So it's told from their perspective.
The Jewish Heritage Center wants the CMHR to re-evaluate its plans for the Nakba exhibit, but it is already withdrawing from next year's Holocaust Remembrance Day programming at the museum. You can hear more on this story coming up in this next half hour right here on Information Radio. A man with a rare disease says the treatment he relies on to help slow it is being revoked. 30-year-old Jeremy Bray has a neurological disease slowly taking away his ability to move his muscles. He fought for the Manitoba government to pay for a hugely expensive drug which reverses some of the disease's effects. The drug's maker agreed to give it to Bray for free on compassionate grounds, but now the company's stopping that coverage. Bray says the drug was helping him regain his energy and move his face again.
When I found out all of that stability and even improvement might be snatched away, I was devastated, afraid, not sure what to do.
Bray says the drug is working and wants the province to cover its costs. But the health minister says Manitoba won't overrule Canada's drug agency, which does not recommend the treatment for people over the age of 25. Honoring Ukrainian children who have died because of the war. People gathered outside the Manitoba legislature last night. Hundreds of pairs of children's shoes lined the walkway and stairs. Close to 750 children have died since Russia's mass invasion of Ukraine in 2022. That's according to numbers from the United Nations Human Rights Office of the High Commissioner. Mila Shakota helped to organize the event. She's also a mother.
I'm so happy and so glad that my daughter is with me here and she is safety. But my heart is with the Ukrainian parents who have lost their kids.
Shakota says she wants people to remember the war in Ukraine continues and the number of people killed continues to rise. A bear attack in northern BC has left 11 people injured.
The bear attack was called into the police at around 1:35, saying that multiple people had been injured by a bear. It was reported that there were students.
RCMP Corporal Madonna Saunderson, the students she mentions are from an elementary school in Bella Coola, about 700 kilometers north of Vancouver. The attack happened on a trail near the rural coastal community. 4 of the injured are in critical or serious condition in hospital. A parent of one of the children says teachers fought off the attacking grizzly. The bear ran off and is still on the loose, and there's no word on what might have prompted that attack. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. The Winnipeg Humane Society wants to help owners, pet owners, facing hard times this holiday season. It has launched its first ever pet food holiday hamper program. It aims to put together about 100 hampers for dogs and cats. The Humane Society says the need for pet food has been surging in the last couple of months. Community Outreach Manager Kendra Galbraith says many clients find their financial situations change.
It can be something as simple as they had a huge bill come in and now all of a sudden they can't afford their pet food, or they lost their job. Whatever it is, we're there to help. If we can keep pets with their families, that's the biggest thing to us. That's what's most important.
Galbraith says the Humane Society's pet food bank would typically see 80 clients a month. Last month, it saw 301. The Humane Society is accepting hamper donations until December 3rd. Items can include pet food, toys, litter, collars, and poop bags. And enjoy this coming weekend's mild weather because winter's not far off. In fact, Natalie Hazel, meteorologist at Environment and Climate Change Canada, says you're going to feel the chill early next week.
We will see a shift in the weather patterns, and temperatures will become much cooler starting on Monday night next week. And they stay quite cold compared to what we've seen.
What we've seen so far this month are temperatures several degrees warmer than seasonal. Still, Hazel says the most recent projections call for above normal temperatures in southern Manitoba, in fact, in most of the country, right through to January. You can find more news updated throughout the day. Just head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Well, that'll stop me from doing the extended forecast. You've heard it. It is going to get cold next week. But let's stay with today and the weekend first, shall we? Sunny in Winnipeg today. We're going to have, right now it's -5, but we're actually going to have a high today of 1 degree. And then it's going to be windy into tomorrow and also still staying sunny. Tomorrow we're expecting the clearing and a high of 6 degrees tomorrow. And then Brandon today is mainly sunny and 7 degrees. Going to be even nicer tomorrow. Thompson, light snow this morning, still continuing. Your high today is -6, and then into tomorrow you'll be around -1. So right now this morning, -5 in Winnipeg, as mentioned. Brandon, you're mainly clear. You're -11, but you'll be warmer later. And in Thompson, that snow is falling now and it's -9. With a look at the commute here, Sierra.
Good morning. Got a call from Jeremy here while we were in the news. There's a stalled car in the right turning lane there at northbound Pembina and Stafford. So when you're on northbound Pembina getting ready to turn onto Stafford, there's those two turning lanes. In the right lane there, there's a stalled car. And I know it gets busy at that intersection in the mornings and the rush hour in the afternoon. So be aware of that. If that is on your commute, you're going to have to keep left to pass there if you are wanting to turn onto Stafford. As well, why not end with some good news? Got a call from Kurt. He mentioned that Portage Avenue West, it was smooth on the way out of town. That's some good news to have on this lovely Friday. But again, just a reminder, there's a stalled car in the right-hand turning lane as you're getting ready to turn onto Stafford from northbound Pembina. If anything else is getting in your way, be like Kurt, be like Jeremy, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
You're recognizing that voice? That is former Manitoban Biff Naked. Going to be joining us after 8 o'clock for a feature interview to talk about an upcoming documentary that was created based on her life. Not just her music, but her life. There's also apparently a movie in the works. So Biff Naked is going to be here on Information Radio on CBC after 8. Right now, let's turn our attention back to a story you've been hearing in the news today. The Canadian Museum for Human Rights is receiving backlash for a new exhibit slated to open next year. It's called Palestine Uprooted, a Nakba Past and Present, and it's about the lived experiences of Palestinian Canadians and the human rights impacts of forced displacement that they faced since 1947. The Jewish Heritage Centre of Western Canada is raising concerns about it. In a statement, Executive Director Bel Jarneski says the Jewish community was not consulted and, quote, "We are tremendously concerned that the planned exhibit will lack balanced scholarly research and will ignore key issues of the historical and current geopolitical reality that is Israel, such as the multi-millennia history of successive colonization and enslavement," end quote. Now, the statement went on to say, quote, "After many years of collaboration on important initiatives with the CMHR, such as the development of the Holocaust Gallery exhibit and many partner programs commemorating the International Holocaust Remembrance Day, that we are withdrawing our collaboration for this year's January 27th program, which we had planned together with the museum," end quote. So we have some local ramifications to this, and as you can hear, Ramsey Zeid is, meantime, the president of the Canadian Palestinian Association of Manitoba. CBC also reached out to him. He says this is a story that needs to be told by the Palestinian community.
This story is a Palestinian story that should be told by Palestinians. Just like the Holocaust story is a story told by the Jewish people. They shouldn't, no other community should be consulted about the Holocaust, and no other community should be consulted about the Nakba. It's a story that should be told by them, for them, and it's a human rights museum that represents all people. So.
Ramsey Zeid is president of the Canadian Palestinian Association of Manitoba. He says the museum will have final say on what's in the exhibit. Aisha Khan is CEO of the Canadian Museum for Human Rights. She spoke with the CBC's Sierra Sanders yesterday.
It is an exhibit that shares the experiences of Palestinian Canadians who have experienced the Nakba or are intergenerational survivors. And it uses multimedia, so a number of different art forms, text and art and interactive, to share their experiences and the human rights violations that are related to forced displacement.
Great, and so I understand the Palestinian community has been lobbying for years for an exhibit like this or something like this. When was it decided that the museum would be doing an exhibit like this?
So it's both true that Palestinian Canadians and others have been asking us, demanding that there be more content in the museum, that it shares their experiences. And we've been working on this for the last 4 years because we made the decision that absolutely we need to share these stories that are human rights stories about displacement. And so we're at the stage where we can announce the exhibit and want people to come see it.
And who, I understand the Palestinian community was a part of the conversations when it came to this exhibit. Who did you, if you can tell me, who did you consult with during the process of this exhibit?
Yeah, so in the same way that we really tell any story that you see in an exhibit here in the museum, we rely on the lived experiences of people who have experienced those atrocities or affected communities. And so we've been working and consulting with a really wide network of Palestinian Canadians and others from across Canada to help ensure that we share their story that they've entrusted and their stories that they've entrusted with us in a responsible way.
And why is this exhibit important to the CMHR?
The CMHR is a museum for human rights, and our job is to tell stories, to share stories that enable people to reflect, to understand human rights, to navigate the human rights issues of our day. This exhibit is going to be in our Rights Today gallery, so it's about contemporary issues. And there's no question that people are looking for information. They're looking to better understand what to do with the information that they have around them, around the Nakba and Palestinian experiences.
And what does the museum hope visitors will take away from it, and what kind of conversations are you hoping to start with this exhibit?
We hope that people will come and see this exhibit. We hope that by being exposed to or being able to touch and feel Palestinian experiences of forced displacement, that they'll be able to understand the human rights impacts that displacement can have on people and draw connections to other situations in history and today. Every exhibit that we tell takes stories from the past often and allows people to apply those principles and the feelings and the reflections that they have so that they can better understand human rights today and that they can actually take action and do something about it.
So the announcement of this exhibit has stirred up some concern from the Jewish Heritage Center of Western Canada, and they're worried the exhibit will lack balanced scholarly research and key historical and current geopolitical context. What's your response to this concern?
We understand that there are people who are concerned, who are worried about what the exhibit may do. What I can share is, for one, we've had a long really long, good history working with the Jewish Center, Heritage Center of Western Canada on Holocaust remembrance and other important issues related to combating anti-Semitism. This exhibit isn't a historical retrospective. This exhibit is about the experiences of Palestinian Canadians who have lived through forced displacement and their families. So it's told from their perspective, from their eyes, just like many other exhibits in the museum are. Currently we're running a major exhibition on the LGBTQ purge, and it's told through the eyes of survivors, their words, their stories, in order to impact others and help them understand what happened at that time.
The Palestinian and Jewish community, they are kind of intertwined in their own ways.
Mm-hmm.
Because of this kind of, how they are kind of intertwined together, do you think that the Jewish community should have been consulted in the curation of this exhibit?
The exhibits that we develop are for all people. As a museum for human rights, we try to share stories that allow people to make connections between human rights violations occurring around the world and here in Canada. We understand that there is a question about how the exhibition was developed. This exhibition was developed with a big team of researchers, academics, a curator who leads the choice making around art and design and many others. And that's how we do our work. The development of this exhibition has the same rigor as any exhibition we develop, and we do that because we feel responsible for ensuring that if a community or individuals entrust us with their stories, we're going to make sure we share them responsibly. We really steward other people's stories, and we really encourage people to come and see the exhibit to help answer some of those anxieties that they may have now.
So the Jewish Heritage Center of Western Canada is pulling out of a partnership with the museum to mark International Holocaust Remembrance Day because of this exhibit. How will this impact the museum's ability to provide Holocaust education and programming to combat anti-Semitism?
We remain absolutely unwaveringly committed to combating anti-Semitism. We have a gallery that allows people to examine the Holocaust. We do Holocaust Remembrance Day programming every year, in addition to talking about anti-Semitism in our school tours and education programs and public tours. We will continue to do that work. We've worked with Holocaust memorial sites and organizations across the country and around the world. We hope to continue to work with the Jewish Heritage Center of Western Canada in the future.
What's your message to those people who might have anxieties or have those concerns about this exhibit that's upcoming?
Well, number one, I hope people will come and see the exhibit. Right now, I understand that there's concern. I also hope that people will visit the museum and experience our approach to storytelling, which is robust and rigorous and is done with care for the communities affected, and is always to ensure that people develop a better understanding of human rights. I think we need that right now.
That is the CEO of the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, Aisha Khan, speaking with CBC's Sierra Sanders yesterday. If you want to read more about the story and the concerns about the exhibit, and also those who are pleased to see it coming to fruition, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Manitoba. And if you're just turning on the radio this morning, we are talking about the new Palestinian exhibit that's coming to CMHR. And specifically also, you heard Sierra asking a lot of questions about the Jewish community here locally and across Western Canada, with concerns that they say they were not consulted, and because of that, they're going to be pulling out of something at the museum in the new year.
Listen up to groundbreaking sounds. Listen up to new and emerging artists. Listen up to what's happening with your favorite musicians. Subscribe now to CBC Music's newsletter, Listen Up. Keep tabs on everything happening in music. News, exclusive live performances, the best new songs, and so much more. Subscribe now at cbc.ca/listen up.
It is now 11 minutes to 8 o'clock on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. Thanks for watching and for listening to the morning show here. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team here at the show. We have Darren and Sierra and Mayan behind the glass today. Heather Wells in our news department. -5 is where we're at this morning. If you're heading out there getting ready to head off to school or work or wait at the bus stop, not too bad. A high of 1 today, and we'll have lots of sunshine in Winnipeg. Coming up, Outspoken and Unapologetic, a new documentary about singer Biff Naked is out today. High interest in this in Manitoba. We're going to hear from her after 8 o'clock on the show. She talks about actually growing up here, identifies herself as a quote-unquote prairie girl, and talks all about friends and family who are going to be leaning into this documentary. She shares a whole lot, not just about on stage, but of course this is about her life off stage as well. So Biff Naked on the show after 8. Well, we all have heard that ER wait times are getting longer. Maybe you're a Manitoban who has sat in an ER for many hours, or maybe you've even decided to leave. There's now new data analyzed by CBC Marketplace. It shows about 500,000 Canadians left emergency departments before being seen by a doctor last year. That data crunch shows it's a figure that has been climbing in recent years as well, attributed to lengthy ER wait times, which are also rising. ER physicians say it's a worrying trend and patients are feeling the consequences. Marketplace host Chris Glover is here to talk about this and also to give us some Manitoba data out of it. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy. Nice to be with you.
So a lot of people who visited ERs know the waits can be long, especially here in Manitoba. We've done a lot of reporting on this. But what have you found in terms of the impact on that has on people's health?
Well, people are going to see an extreme example of the problem in the show tonight. We share a story of 16-year-old Finley Vanderwerken. Back in 2024, his parents rushed him to an ER in Ontario with abdominal pain. He was triaged at level 2, and guidelines say a doctor should see a patient like that within 15 minutes. But instead, he waited 8 hours and 22 minutes before seeing a doctor, and by then, Finley had sepsis. It was his body's response to a pneumonia infection, and he went into cardiac arrest. His organs started failing, and the 16-year-old died in hospital. Here's part of my conversation with his mother, Hazel.
I had to go up several times to the nurse's desk and ask for them to come and see Finley. He was having problems breathing and he was in so much pain, he was crying out.
8 hours and 22 minutes. What does that length of time mean?
It's a number I hate now. And it's 8 hours of 22 minutes that Finley had to suffer.
Do you think that his death was preventable?
Yes.
And so the family is now suing the hospital. In its statement of defense, Halton Healthcare denies negligence. The hospital also tells us since Finley's death, it's added more doctors during periods of high patient volume, but that is still not enough for Hazel. And so on the show tonight, Marcy, you will see how far this mother is willing to go to get accountability and action for her son's death.
Now, his long ER wait is not an isolated incident. Tell us about the national data crunch that you guys did. What'd you find?
We uncovered two main problems looking at all this data from the provinces. First, ER waits are in fact getting longer. So if you're out there thinking that it's just you, no, the data is backing this up. A common indicator to track here is something called a median length of stay, essentially from the minute the patient shows up to the minute the patient is discharged from the ER. And median means the middle figure of a data set. So that means that for the numbers that you're about to hear, a full half of these patients waited even longer. Starting with the national stats, 4 or 5 years ago, the median length of stay in a Canadian ER was up to 4.5 hours. By 2024, that was up to 5.5 hours. And when we drill down to Winnipeg, St. Boniface Hospital had the longest median length of stay in the province. And Marcy, it was 10 hours and 30 minutes. And again, that's a median. So that means half the patients waited longer than that.
You said there were two problems you uncovered in the data specifically. So what was the second one?
The second problem is people deciding to leave an ER before seeing a doctor. And last year, about 500,000 Canadians left emergency departments before seeing a doctor. When we think about the province of Manitoba, I can tell you that last year, there were 13% of ER patients that walked out without seeing a doctor. It's the second highest percentage in Canada compared to all the other provinces, and it works out to 60,000 people. So those are 60,000 people who went to an ER for some sort of an issue and never even got assessed by a doctor before they left.
What are the consequences of that?
Well, we wanted to find out that answer, certainly. And so we did a 12-hour overnight shift outside St. Michael's Hospital in Toronto to track patients' journeys and see what they're dealing with. And by the end of that 12-hour shift, some of the patients that we'd met at the beginning were still there waiting. And we certainly met patients who did exactly what we're talking about, waited for hours, came out and said to me they were fed up and they were leaving. They were still dealing, certainly in one woman's case, with this epic pain in her back. And she had no idea what was causing it, but she had to get to work, so she had to go. And New Brunswick ER doctor Fraser Mackay is with the Canadian Association of Emergency Physicians. I want you to hear why he thinks walkouts are such a major issue.
It's rare that a shift will go by where one of the patients I'll see isn't someone that was there yesterday or the day before and couldn't handle the wait and left. And now they come back, and now they're that much sicker.
So in the episode tonight, you'll meet a 51-year-old woman from Moncton, New Brunswick. Susan Gordon went to an ER earlier this year with sharp stomach pain, and she was vomiting intensely. She describes the ER as chaotic, standing room only, and so after hours of waiting, she said, "Forget this, I am leaving." And in the weeks after, though, her pain intensified. She had no idea what was causing it until ultimately she collapsed and was rushed back to the ER. Turns out she had appendicitis. And that time that she had to go back, she now needed emergency surgery. Horizon Health runs the Moncton Hospital, and it said in a statement it doesn't want any patient to leave before being seen, and says long ER waits are a result of what's called boarded patients.
Okay, before you go this morning, I need you to explain that, because people that term boarded patients, what does it actually mean?
Yeah, I think it'll be new to a lot of people, but it is a term that ER patients have been assessed and treated, but they're awaiting a move to another ward of the hospital, and that other ward is full. So the patient has essentially nowhere to go and becomes a block. So in the show tonight, you'll watch us tag along for an entire shift with the chief of emergency medicine at one of the biggest hospitals in the country, Toronto's Sunnybrook Hospital. And at one point, half the ER patients there were boarded patients, many of them in the hall of the emergency department. We walked right by them on stretchers with our cameras rolling as they were getting treatment or having their vitals checked by nurses. And the day that we were at Sunnybrook, the longest boarded patient was waiting in that emergency department for 36 hours. And the thing is, as they wait there in the ER, taking up the time of the doctors and the nurses, as well as that bed space, it's a domino effect. So the people in the waiting room are stuck out there for hours as well. And we know that an increasing number of them are leaving. Every expert we interviewed said that there were a lot of factors that caused long ER wait times, including chronic understaffing and a lack of family doctors. But they all identified that this issue, boarded patients, that's the number one. So we reached out to all the provinces, Manitoba included, and they all acknowledged that the problem existed and they knew it, and they were committing to investing millions of dollars to solve at-capacity hospital units spilling over into long ER waits. But all of the provinces conceded that more work needs to be done, especially in the face of this data that we've uncovered here.
Chris, thank you.
Thanks, Marcy.
Chris Glover is a host with CBC Marketplace. Their full investigation in critical condition is on tonight at 8 o'clock. Chris is also a reporter who worked here in Manitoba for a long time. So grateful to have all those, Manitoba stats in that report as well for some context here. If you want to read some of the stories that we've been doing on the awaits in ER, also on patients here that have left, similar to the folks that Chris had in his report today, please go to our website at cbc.ca/Manitoba. This fall, Rosanna Hempel did a look at some of our hospitals locally as well. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells. She has your Friday morning headlines.
Good morning. Well, a man with a rare disease says the treatment he relies on to help slow it is being revoked. 30-year-old Jeremy Bray has a neurological disease slowly taking away his ability to move his muscles. He's calling on the province to foot the bill for that treatment that he needs. Children's shoes lined the walkway and stairs leading to the Manitoba legislature last night. Those shoes, lit up by artificial candles, were there to honor Ukrainian children who have died because of the war. We're going to hear more in our next local news at 8:30.
Thanks, Heather.
Thanks.
It is in Winnipeg right now, -5 still, and we are going to have a sunny day ahead, and we'll be right around 1 degree. The commute has been pretty cooperative. No big problems out there. 788-3093 if you need to pass something along. We will also share it here on the air. Coming up on CBC's Morning Show, she is a Juno Award-winning punk rocker, Biff Naked. She grew up here in Manitoba. She broke out into the scene in the mid-90s with the band Gorilla Gorilla. You're going to know a lot of her tunes. I Love Myself Today, Spaceman, Daddy's Getting Married. But did you know that they're about to make a documentary about her? Actually, that's about to be released. And a movie's coming out soon. Biff Naked on CBC after 8.
Today on Q. The musician William Prince is ready to look back. On his new album, he talks about growing up on Peguis First Nation and his relationship with his dad. In a way, he says he can only talk about it because enough time has passed. He'll be here to talk to you about his new album and about playing the Grand Ole Opry.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
The Haskell Free Library straddles the border between Vermont and Quebec and is now caught up in the talk about Canada-U.S. relations. We'll be there with a live audience and guests including novelist Louise Penny and musician Patrick Watson. It's a live special edition of The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. We begin with a devastating grizzly bear attack on a group of elementary school students in northern British Columbia. 4 people were critically or seriously injured. In total, 11 people were treated after the attack. It happened in Bella Coola, 700 kilometers north of Vancouver. The CBC's Janella Hamilton has more.
The bear attack was called into the police at around 1:35, saying that multiple people had been injured by a bear.
RCMP Corporal Madonna Saunderson says the attack happened Thursday afternoon on a trail near Bella Coola. According to paramedics, 11 people were treated at the scene. 4 were taken to hospital by air due to poor weather in the area. 2 in critical condition, 2 others seriously hurt.
It was reported that there were students.
The mother of a child in the elementary school class who was posting on social media told the Canadian Press teachers fought off the attacking animal. She says the children are in grades 4 and 5 and her son is traumatized by the attack, adding that 3 children were among those with injuries. The chief of the New Hulk First Nation says the community is devastated for the individuals and families impacted. Meanwhile, the El Casalta school says it will be closed Friday due to the bear incident and will be providing supports for those who need them. As of last evening, the bear had not been located. Janella Hamilton, CBC News, Vancouver.
There could be an awkward Oval Office encounter today. This afternoon, Donald Trump sits down with Democratic Mayor-elect of New York, Zoran Mamdani. The two men are polar opposites politically, with the president calling Mamdani a communist lunatic and a disaster. Willie Lowry is in our Washington bureau. So, Willie, what are we expecting today? Détente or dissension?
Biggest names in their respective political parties at the moment, but there is a huge power imbalance between them. Zoran Mamdani is still just the mayor-elect. He only takes office in January, and he's dealing with a president who has threatened to cut federal funding to New York City, send in the National Guard, and ramp up immigration enforcement efforts there, all because Mamdani is a Democratic socialist. Here is White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
Speaks volumes that tomorrow we have a communist coming to the White House because that's who the Democrat Party elected as the mayor of the largest city in the country. I think it's very telling, but I also think it speaks to the fact that President Trump is willing to meet with anyone and talk to anyone and to try to do what's right on behalf of the American people.
Mamdani, meanwhile, says he'll be singularly focused in the meeting.
I will meet with anyone. I will speak to everyone, so long as it could stand to benefit an economic agenda for New Yorkers.
This meeting perhaps a foreshadowing of the next 3 years and what the relationship will be between the president and his native town.
To that point, Willie, the meeting comes as Donald Trump is facing tough times politically. What are the stakes for him going into this meeting?
He absolutely is. The Epstein files have revealed cracks in the Republican Party and his grip on Congress. Longtime stalwarts like Marjorie Taylor Greene have seemingly split, and he's facing a growing affordability crisis as his economic policies face the test of reality. All of that heightens the stakes for this meeting as the two faces of their parties square off for the first time.
Willie Lowry in Washington. Thanks, Willie.
My pleasure.
Delegates of the COP30 summit in Brazil are facing a looming deadline. The climate talks due to wrap up today, but they may have hit an impasse. A new draft deal published early this morning has removed the words fossil fuels from the text. And as Susan Ormiston reports, the tense negotiations had to deal with another problem, a fire at the venue.
Huge orange flames burned a hole out of a massive tent which is housing the climate talks in Belém, spewing black smoke through part of the venue before firefighters brought it under control. 13 people were treated for smoke inhalation. Thousands had evacuated the venue before it reopened on Thursday night. A major disruption at a critical moment as negotiators for 197 countries tried to come up with consensus on trade, climate financing for developing countries, and stronger action to reduce harmful emissions.
We are down to the wire, and the world is watching Belém.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres made a last-minute appeal for countries to get behind a roadmap to transition away from fossil fuels.
And the world must pursue a just, orderly and equitable transition away from fossil fuels as agreed at COP28 in Dubai.
82 countries are pushing to take action on moving away from oil, coal and gas, but they make up only 7% of the world's oil production. Some have told the Brazilian leadership that phasing out fossil fuels is a red line. Without it, they won't sign on to any agreement. But large oil-producing countries like Saudi Arabia and Russia, and large users like China and India were not on board, nor was Canada, as negotiations stretched into the early hours of Friday morning. Gaps between the countries appear to be widening, and the fire delay hasn't helped. A large meeting of all countries, a plenary, is planned for Friday, but it's unclear what they'll vote on. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Toronto.
Smash and grabs, brazen jewelry store robberies that happen across the country, but jewelers in the Greater Toronto area are getting hit the hardest. The Fifth Estate investigation reveals many of the suspects are young teens recruited by adults to do the dirty work. The CBC's Joanna Remiliotis has details.
You might have seen videos of smash and grabs, swarms of what appear to be young people smashing jewelry displays and grabbing what they can as fast as they can, often in broad daylight. Police say the violent robberies have spiked in the last 3 years. The Fifth Estate was able to identify at least 60 cases this year alone in Ontario.
Something has to happen. Something has to change.
Jerry Serrani's store in Markham, Ontario has been targeted 3 times in 1 year.
See, the crime is getting bigger and bigger, getting more violent.
Shattered glass, obviously, from display.
The Fifth Estate got rare access with York Regional Police's hold-up unit to see how they're tackling a surge in violent robberies. A big revelation, many of the suspects are young teenagers who police say often get released on bail and go on to reoffend.
We are seeing a lot of youth being recruited by adult offenders, and they realize that, a youth offender is likely not going to be held as accountable as they...
There's a lot of emotion behind it.
This woman told us her 16-year-old son was approached by an adult with the promise of fast money and getting off easy. Her son is accused of being involved in multiple smash and grabs. To protect his identity under the Youth Criminal Justice Act, we're not using her name.
I think a heavy message was that anything that he does before he's 18 doesn't matter. It won't affect him as an adult.
Those dangerous influences are still out there, and why she made the tough decision to not bail her son out, because she believes he's safer in custody. Joanna Remiliotis, CBC News, Toronto.
That Fifth Estate investigation, Smash and Grab, airs tonight at 9 p.m. on CBC Television and GEM, or you can watch it anytime on YouTube. And finally, Shoppers heading into their first holiday season since the trade war with the United States began, and this year the added push to buy Canadian-made goods is weighing heavily on the consumer conscience. Alison McCormick reports.
I would be looking to buy Canadian products more so than ever before, absolutely.
At a Fredericton Mall, shopper Craig Buchanan says he'll be on the lookout for locally made gifts this holiday season, but it won't be his top priority.
Cost in today's economy, I think, would be the most driving force, and then where it's made.
He's not alone. The Retail Council of Canada recently conducted a survey of more than 2,500 Canadians. 86% of respondents said buying Canadian is important to them this Christmas, but the Atlantic director Jim Cormier says price matters more than anything.
Over 60% told us that, price is always going to be the number one factor.
And he says rising costs have turned a lot of people into strategic shoppers.
A lot of our respondents to the survey said that they plan on doing a lot of research, waiting for sales, and then saying that, frankly, price is going to be paramount.
Heather Atchison researches social issues for the Human Development Council. She says being choosy about where things are made is a luxury not everyone can afford.
Being able to make those decisions does come with a lot of privilege.
The retail survey also found everyone is pulling back a bit this year. Cormier says spending typically goes up each year, but this holiday, Canadians are planning to spend the same amount. That works out to a national average of about $975. Alison McCormick, CBC News, Fredericton.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Welcome to Friday, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Information Radio. Great to have you with us on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. CBC's morning show in downtown Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Pretty good out there, I think, right? Can't complain. Well, we can always complain, but we shouldn't because it's going to be sunny and really nice today. And right now we're sitting at -5. At the airport, a little cooler, -8. We'll update those temperatures for you in a moment. This half hour, we have a feature interview. Feels like a Friday interview with a musician that you're going to know. A Manitoban Biff Naked. She is a Juno Award winner punk rocker. She is also one of the women that in the 1990s cut her teeth as one of the only women coming up through that scene. Here she was in Gorilla, local band. Of course, she went on to much success. There is an upcoming film called Biff Naked, a documentary that presses even further into her world, public, musically, and personal. We'll ask her what it was like making it and also about an upcoming film about her life that's coming out. So Biff Naked on CBC. And if you want, watch the interview on YouTube as well, because there'll be lots to watch for there as she shared some scenes from her life. And of course, we reached her via Zoom last week for this. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells before we hear from Biff Naked. She is here to talk about news headlines and developing stories. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, the Canadian Museum for Human Rights is defending a decision to open a new exhibit on the Nakba. That is the Arabic term for catastrophe, which Palestinians used to describe a defining moment of their history. Hundreds of thousands forced out or leaving their homes during the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. Now, Israel disputes forcing Palestinians out. The Jewish Heritage Centre of Western Canada wants the CMHR to reevaluate its plans for that exhibit. We're going to hear more about that coming up as well. Help is on the way for pet owners feeling the squeeze this holiday season. The Winnipeg Humane Society has launched its first ever pet food holiday hamper program. I'll be back with how you can help in our next local news at 8:30.
Heather, I'm glad you were on camera just now because if I were on camera, people would have seen me trying to get, you have an itch right in the middle of your back?
Yeah.
So I'm like rubbing around my chair. Now I'm doing it and you can see me on camera, but sometimes I'll walk to the corner of a room and use the corner of the wall. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what cattle do. Don't they use like posts and stuff?
I'm just going to let that
You need a scratching post.
Sit there. Yes, I am emulating cattle behavior this morning.
It's Friday.
We'll put one in the studio. Why not? People come in and be like, what's that?
It's Marcy's post.
Mainly clear in Winnipeg right now. It is -5. Today we're going to go to 1, as I mentioned. It will start sunny. We might get a bit of cloud this afternoon. Let's look at the weekend, though, because this is what you want to know. Tomorrow, it's going to be windy in Winnipeg. Winds will be southwest 30 to 50. Tomorrow's high is 6 degrees, and we should have a nice clear day as well to enjoy that. And then that's going to be Saturday, but then Sunday, moving ahead, it still stays pretty mild here in Winnipeg, above normal. Sunday, mix of sun and cloud, and a high of 6 again. So it's going to be warm across southern Manitoba, and then next week we dip we go right past where we've been. We go right into seasonal temperatures and maybe even a little below seasonal. So it's going to get cold. So get your mitts and scarves and all that stuff organized this weekend while we have a chance here. 8:13 and into the morning commute. And those details come from Sierra Sanders.
Good morning. Still hearing. I got a call from Jeremy in the last hour here about a stalled car in the right turning lane on northbound Pembina going on to Stafford. And that and while we were in the news, I got another call. That stall is still there. And I know that intersection can get quite busy during the rush hour times here in Winnipeg. So if that is on your commute, you want to make sure if you are going to turn onto Stafford from northbound Pembina that you need to keep left to get around that stalled car there in that right turning lane. So again, stalled car in the right turning lane on northbound Pembina turning onto Stafford. You want to keep left to pass there and maybe expect some delays, especially since that intersection does get quite busy. It used to be a regular intersection on my commute, so I totally know what it can look like. If you have anything else that we should let other people know about, the listeners, the commuters out there, give me a call on the CBC commuter line, whether you are here in the city or out on the highways. I'd love to hear what's going on out there. We still have a little bit of time left in the show. The number to call is 204-788-3093.
Well, as I mentioned, there is a deep look into the life of Juno Award-winning punk rocker Biff Naked coming up in this new documentary. Biff Naked grew up in Manitoba. She broke out onto the scene in the mid-1990s with Gorilla. Then she found success with hits like Daddy's Getting Married, I Love Myself Today, and Spaceman. Now, many consider her an unapologetic trailblazer for women in Canadian music. Now the upcoming movie, the film, Biff Naked, a documentary, presses even further, as I mentioned, into her world. It is directed by Pollyanna Hardwick Brown, and it's out today.
I love myself today, not like yesterday. Biff was just a different kind of person. Biff talked about sexuality differently. Biff was rougher around the edges. Of course she's not going to fit in.
In punk rock music, you don't give a
To succeed in this business for as long as she has, it takes a lot of grit, and that girl was full of grit.
Every single show is amazing. It's the other 22 hours in the day that are hard.
Last week, I had the opportunity via Zoom to have a feature interview with Biff Naked.
Good morning.
So how did you feel at first about doing a documentary?
Well, I have to blame my manager, as I always do, Peter. He has been my manager since, 1992-ish, since I was in Chrome Dog. And he badgered me into writing the memoir, the book that came out in 2016, which now really needs an update because a lot has happened in a decade, as our lives go. And so with the documentary, they're making a feature film based on the book Ibificus, which is nutty, which is already insane, and I'm not in that. They're hiring real actors for that one. And he was bemoaning, he was in a conversation where he's bemoaning being badgered by all these, very well-meaning documentary filmmakers who want to kind of make this documentary about my life, whether it's, story of origin, about my adoptee story, about, being born in India, about my parents being missionaries, or about me being a runaway, or really about my music career, or whatever it is. And he just kind of was, brushing them off all the time. And then the producers from the feature company said, "Why aren't you working with us on this?" And it was just a labor of love really, Pollyanna is so thoughtful and meticulous, and she was a fan, and really just so lovingly wanted to just share my story, really truthfully, and I guess, I don't know, in a kind way, and just very um, you know, I guess I want to say meticulously.
Yeah.
Um,
How important was that to you, given that each chapter of your story, I mean, you rattled a whole bunch out there that frankly could all be subjects of documentaries on their own. You know, you talked about having an adoption story, being here and then in Winnipeg, you know, your parents missionaries. You talked about running away. Obviously, your cancer is part of your story and your journey, as is facing sexual violence. What was it like opening up for this?
Well, because I had always kind of been, I've been writing these kind of really personal lyrics since I was, I don't know, in Gorilla Gorilla. Like, I've never been a shy person. So, these lyrics have always been out there in the world. I've been able to kind of, enshroud them in, this poetic kind of fabric all this time. But it was very difficult, kind of, being very honest and tearfully recalling, in interview style for the camera, some of these, very factual and very intimate personal details. Some things that were not in my memoir. HarperCollins is a lovely company, certainly, but we didn't talk about stalkers at all in my memoir. We did not go there. And that's, HarperCollins is, my book for HarperCollins is very polite.
Yeah.
Let me just put it that way. It's a very polite book.
How much do stalkers factor in? Did they factor into your journey?
I have a lot of stalkers. I've always had a lot of stalkers. I've been in court a lot. The criminal justice system and me are good friends, and have always been. I have a lot of dark tales in my professional life and in my adult life, and I have a lot of dark tales in my domestic violence experience, and I have never gone there in my book, and I don't really go there too much in my documentary because there just isn't the time. Part of what my documentary talks about is how if you are a trauma survivor, and, I am a self-respect filled prairie girl, and so I always say that you have humor, because we use humor as prairie girls.
Yes, we do.
We use humor as a survival technique.
As you said, you shared tears when you're doing this long interview. Do you have moments of self-reflection after that interview's done on the day and you think, whew, but this is going to reach so-and-so of a group, and that's why it's worth it? Who are you thinking of reaching?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I know for a fact because most of my best friends are also from Winnipeg. And I'm still friends with all the girls that I was friends with when I was 18. And we all went through all the same things. And so, we all high five at the end. So to watch that on the screen, I know for a fact that there are going to be people in the audience who are going to relate to it and who are going to leave with smiles on their faces, for sure, and bigger hearts. And I hope that everyone leaves with a smile on their face and a good feeling in their heart, because no matter what we have all been through in our lives, and everyone has a shared experience, we all have that mutuality.
This is a quote from the trailer. People might have seen this quote, but that every single show is amazing. It's the other 22 hours that are hard.
Yes, the other two.
What does that mean?
Hours in the day, because I think that people do suffer in their lives. The show is always amazing. The show is good. When you're performing on stage or whatever your passion is in life, you forget everything else in the world. You're a singer on the stage and you are hitting your note and you see your lyric has resonated with an audience member, and that's the moment you know that all your struggle that it took to create the song and the lyric of Heartache has resonated with that person. All that struggle is worth it.
I wonder whether or not anything that you heard about yourself when you watched the final cut stayed with you and made you go, or surprised you, or I don't want to assign a word to it, but did you watch the final cut and go, oh, that is me, or that even, for me watching something about me, I find quite surprising or humbling, or did you have a moment when you were watching it?
Well, the whole thing for me was very humbling. I wasn't involved in the editing or anything like that. I didn't watch it all along. I watched it when it was completed. And for me, watching my birth mom be interviewed was incredibly moving. It was, I was overcome watching her talking.
Can we stay there? Can we stay there for a moment? Just maybe why was that? Just so people that don't know much about your story. She was, I think, a teenager, right? Was she like a young woman in India when she?
She was. Yeah. She's only 15 years older than me, and so I felt like that was the first opportunity she's ever had to share her story ever. And to watch her talking about having to leave me behind, and for her to share that she was able to sneak down and see me one last time. I mean, that, it killed me because I know her now. I was able to meet her. I searched for her, even though my parents were amazing. I had a great childhood. I have a great family. I had a great upbringing. But I met her when I was 21. And, I have always had a wonderful relationship with her also, which has been amazing. And now that I live out here in Ontario, because her family moved back to Canada from India. So I have a relationship with her out here, and she and I are like twins.
Wow.
I mean, it's nuts. Our mannerisms are the same. We speak the same way. The way my face wrinkles is the same as her. I mean, it's nuts. And it's so cool.
What a pleasure to talk to you ahead of the documentary that's going to stream on Super Channel on November 21st. And nice to have you with part of my interview with Biff Naked. We spoke at length last week in advance of the documentary about her life. Biff Naked, a documentary, is now streaming on Super Channel. The movie is to be announced for more details in the future. And we're going to see who plays her. She wouldn't share that with me, by the way. I tried to get that out of her. She's not sure who's in the running, and she's also under wraps for sharing who's been considered. So we'll have to see. We can't resist. Here's Biff Naked on CBC.
You left me like a broken doll in pieces as I took the fall for you. We don't chomp, we left me free falling like space junk, burning up in the atmosphere of life. Well, I sound like a philosopher, but I'm a fool, cause I'm a rocker, cause I let you in my heart that one last time. Dark-headed girl, made up my mind. I'm gonna get up and out and wild. I love myself today. Not like yesterday. I'm cool, I'm hard to touch with a chat room full of lovers on the line. Gonna step right up, spit shine my soul. I'm gonna be proud and loud and out of control. I love myself today, not like yesterday. I'm cool, I'm calm, I'm gonna be okay. I love myself today, not like yesterday. Take another look at me now, 'cause it's your last look, your last look forever. I'm looking in the mirror and I like what I see. I've lost the fear in the heart that's been eating at me. 'Cause being with you was like a hangman's noose. I was living my life in dead man's shoes. I had enough, made up my mind. I'm gonna get up and out and wild. I love myself today, not like yesterday. I'm cool, I'm calm, I'm gonna be okay. I love myself today, not like yesterday. Take another look at me now. Hey, hey, I love myself today, not like yesterday. I'm dead and gone, I'm gonna get my way. I love myself today, not like yesterday. Take another look at me now, 'cause it's your last look, your last look forever. I love myself today, 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 I love myself today,
You want to find some strength? Have a listen to Biff Naked's Love Myself Today. Still holds up, man, after all these years, right? What a warrior she was for women back in the day. And now today, to hear all those layers to her story, you can check out the new documentary that's out about her life here in Manitoba, and then her life onward as well, and all of her successes. So you can check that out. Right now, it is time for your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 8:30. Sun's up. It is -5 right now. We'll warm up, not as warm as yesterday, but a high this afternoon of 1. The Canadian Museum for Human Rights is defending a decision to open a new exhibit on the Nakba. That is the Arabic term for catastrophe, which Palestinians use to describe a defining moment of their history. Hundreds of thousands were forced out or left their homes during the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. Israel disputes forcing out Palestinians, and the Jewish Heritage Centre of Western Canada has concerns this exhibit will lack historical and current geopolitical context. Aisha Khan is the head of the Human Rights Museum.
This exhibit isn't a historical retrospective. This exhibit is about the experiences of Palestinian Canadians who have lived through forced displacement and their families. So it's told from their perspective.
The Jewish Heritage Centre wants the CMHR to reevaluate its plans for the Nakba exhibit, but it is already withdrawing from next year's Holocaust Remembrance Day programming at the museum. A 30-year-old man is losing access to a drug that slows the effects of his degenerative disease. Jeremy Bray's disease has gradually robbed him of the ability to move his muscles. He pleaded with the Manitoba government to pay for the hugely expensive drug. The drug's maker instead gave it to Bray free on compassionate grounds. Now that company is ending that free coverage, and the province won't intervene because it doesn't want to overrule Canada's drug agency, which does not recommend the treatment for adults over 25. Bray wants the province to reconsider.
I want to get in a room with them and for them to look me in the eye and tell me why they're unwilling to fund this drug that has been already shown to work for me.
Bray is in a wheelchair. He says the drug was helping him regain his energy and move more of his face again. Children's shoes lined the walkway and stairs leading to the Manitoba legislature last night. The The shoes, lit up by artificial candles, were there to honor Ukrainian children who have died because of the war. Oksana Huditska was among those who showed up to the event. She and her husband were living in Poland for work when the war started. Feeling like they couldn't return to Ukraine, they moved to Manitoba.
These children, not all of this, more than these numbers, just die because they can't move, can't live. And today is a Children's Day, and we can't pronounce every name of children who was dying in Ukraine, but we can stay here, pray, and just hope the war is end.
Close to 750 children have died since Russia's mass invasion of Ukraine in 2022, according to numbers from the United Nations Human Rights Office of the High Commissioner. It looks like winter could be just around the corner. After a month with only a few flakes and temperatures much warmer than seasonal, forecasters are calling for colder conditions starting early next week. Natalie Hazel is a meteorologist at Environment and Climate Change Canada. She says temperatures should start getting colder Monday night, likely meaning white stuff isn't far behind.
If we do get precipitation then, it should stick. It should stay on the ground, because temperatures are not expected to be above zero after that anytime soon.
Still, Hazel says Environment Canada's most recent projections call for more above normal temperatures right through January, and that includes this coming weekend. The Winnipeg Humane Society wants to help pet owners facing hard times this holiday season. It has launched its first ever pet food holiday hamper program. It aims to put together about 100 hampers for dogs and cats. The Humane Society says the need for pet food has been surging in the last couple of months. Community outreach manager Kendra Galbraith says many clients find their financial situations change.
It can be something as simple as they had a huge bill come in and now all of a sudden they can't afford their pet food, or they lost their job. Whatever it is, we're there to help. If we can keep pets with their families, that's the biggest thing to us. That's what's most important.
Galbraith says the Humane Society's pet food bank would typically see about 80 clients a month. Last month, it saw 301. The Humane Society is now accepting hamper donations until December 3rd. You can offer things like pet food, toys, litter, collars, even poop bags. You can find more news on our website. Just head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Heather Wells and Megan Ketchison and Aaron Broman, as well as Joni Nicolo from our news department. Big thanks for the week. Thanks to our producers in unit. Nellie Gonzalez produces all of our programs. Leif Larson is the senior producer of audio. So thank you to those two. Thank you to Darren Marash for the week as well, our YouTube producer. Hosts in unit, Nadia Kidwai, Marjorie Dalhouse, and Faith Fundal. Producer Donna Carrero with work on the shows this week. Reporters in unit, Channel Eva Dell, community reporter, and Jim Agapito. And also thanks to the group of folks that write the most, research the most, and frankly do the bulk of the work here for all of our shows. They are associate producers for all the programs: Corey Funk, Avi Adiyemi, Sierra Sanders, Chidi Akuma, May McKillop, Marshall Hodgins, Geneva Dosso, Dylan Longhurst, Chloe Friesen, Sophia Peralta Baron, and Joshua Tyfair. Thank you all for your work. Last quick look at weather: -5 in Winnipeg, -11 in Brandon. It is -9 in Thompson. We're all going to be looking pretty good today and clear and sunny. Winnipeg with 1 degree, Brandon with 4 degrees, and up in Thompson it's going to be -6, and we get warmer through the weekend. And Sierra, the commute, last word for you.
Last quick, still hearing about that stalled car in the right turning lane on northbound Pembina as you're turning onto Stafford there. You're going to have to get into the left to pass there.
All right. Thank you for the morning.
Thank you.
Sarah's been directing today. And take care, be well, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This has been CBC's Information Radio. Have an awesome weekend. We will talk to you all on Monday live right here on 89.3.